unmute myself there. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bread Theory. Tonight we're going to be doing some more community requested videos. I have with me Dan Platt of the Three Left Show. How you doing? Happy New Year, Dan.
Currently eating, so I'm gonna be unmuted while you get started. But otherwise,
Gotcha.
slightly better than last time we streamed. My site is
That's good.
back up,
I'm, I'm,
so new
I'm glad to hear
year,
that.
site's back up.
Glad to
Um,
hear that.
and I don't know if I'm on track to switch my content stream, but I will be releasing the backlog of episodes I made. I have like 4 new episodes incoming, so look forward
Very
to
cool.
them. I put a lot of effort into every show I make. 2 hour program. I believe they are worth listening to. I feel like you get a lot more than if you're listening to, I don't know, leftist commentators on Twitch. This one,
Absolutely.
Brett Theory excluded, of course, but well, compared to just the React lords who are just like, let's watch Ben Shapiro and make fun of the right wingers.
Yeah.
I think, and just answer basic political science questions that belong in a high school classroom, but of course don't happen there, so it has to be online.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that stuff, especially the React Lord things, tends to be more entertainment focused rather than moving the discourse forward or building a movement or anything like that. But yeah, yeah, definitely. I can attest to that. Three Left Show, very content heavy. Always leaves me thinking about something new every time I listen in. So for sure. So the videos that we have requested for are all very long. So we may just kind of skip around from video to video. Um, Actually, there's one that's only a minute and a
We could do
half.
things like when you're book shopping, you look at the table of contents and you basically read some of the intro and then you read the last chapter.
Sure, sure, yeah, yeah, we could
And
do it
that's
that way for
how
sure.
I'm talking nonfiction, of course, nonfiction.
Uh-huh.
But the beginning and the end. What's the thesis? And then if there's a conclusion, is there a conclusion?
Sure. So actually, there's one short one. I forgot about that one. We can start with some random one about Lee Atwater. In fact, he was the Bush senior campaign advisor who was famous for uh, kind of the go negative early on in the campaign sort of a strategy, and it worked really well against Dan Quayle. Although Dan Quayle didn't didn't really do much for his own
You
self.
mean it's not quail?
Wasn't it Dan Quayle who?
Are you
Oh
talking
no,
about
no,
in the you're talking about in the
Dukakis.
primary?
No, I meant to say Dukakis.
You mean Dukakis?
Uh,
They did not
yeah,
invent going negative though. I don't know why. I think maybe in presidential campaigns, but of course going negative is an American tradition going
sure.
all the way back to the first presidential election.
I think it was more just like do it early. Don't even just dispense with the formalities of pretending to like your opponent and just
Mm,
negative, negative, negative and drilled in. That's how I understand it anyway.
you know.
But anyway, there's a short little one. His interview on the Southern strategy. So we'll check it out.
Here's how I would approach that issue as a statistician or a political science, or no, as a psychologist, which I'm not, is how abstract you handle the race thing. In other words, you start out, and now y'all aren't quoting me on this. You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger.
Oh God,
By
no.
1968,
Of course, we have to start with one where it says slurs. So we're not going to be finishing that one. Uh, just remember when you're sharing links, how about don't violate Twitch TOS? That'd be
Or at
nice.
least give trigger warnings or content
Warnings
warnings.
would be
Well, content
something,
warnings. CWs.
something,
Content warnings.
something. So yeah, that was that one. So basically, I know where that's going because I believe I've heard that speech before. His
Yeah,
idea
me
was to
too.
do the walk up to the line of racism without ever crossing it. So instead of black, you say urban. Instead of a racial slur, you say some other way that to allude to whatever racial group that you're referring to. So it's basically just dog whistling. Um, he didn't exactly invent dog whistling either, but he definitely made it the central strategy of the Republican Party, which stands till today. Let's see what else. So the longer videos, there's one. It's a Michael Parenti
Well,
speech.
I can comment that it seems
Oh,
like
sure.
some needed information to know, like, see, the right wingers are actually being racist when they're using dog whistles, but they're plainly any right winger. I mean, anyone who kind of does this, at least in my
Hmm.
experience, will plainly correlate. Like, yeah, of course, I'm talking about the blacks. They do more crime. I
Right, right,
mean, they
right.
don't need to hide or they're not shamed of it, of course. They don't need to be.
Hmm.
Because in their minds, they're not racist. It's not racist to point out that blacks do more crimes
Right,
and whites are better or something like that. It's just the facts or something like that.
right.
Or the facts say
Although,
things are unfair and that's actually the moral thing that's happening.
mhm.
So
Although
it's,
yeah, I will say though that when you push back on that and you're like, well, why do black people commit more crimes? They'll use another dog whistle and they'll say it's a culture. They'll put it on culture. And oh, why do they have a different culture? And they can't really ever answer that because really what they want to say is they believe that black people are just inherently inferior in one respect or another. So it's just a different way of dog
yeah.
whistling, but
Or you ask them,
basically
like,
the
what
same
would it
result.
mean to have better culture?
Right,
And
right, right.
basically be WAS. That's
Yeah.
what they mean.
Yeah,
Be like me.
right,
And
right.
uh I mean,
Well, I mean,
as leftists, we want us to people to be like, we would want more people to be culturally like us in a way.
sure.
But it's like there's different levels of what would be inferior and inferior. So, and that's like you're not talking about culture, you're just talking about habits that might
Hmm.
be negative, have negative impacts, like patriarchy. Let's say it's like
Hmm.
patriarchy is part of my culture. It's my
Right.
culture for the man to be the breadwinner and blah blah blah, not have an egalitarian relationship. And
Sure.
so, how do you post in a postmodern subjective way where everyone can do their own thing, or we don't want to actually like say one culture's not like superior to the other? So, like that, and that's where you kind of feed into kind of a trap, like in culture war stuff,
Yeah.
where the left is kind of left looking like a dumb butt because
Okay.
they're left without a justification, and the right wing like they really are left with like, well, it's just obvious that it's wrong to be X, or it's virtuous to be part of my culture but not yours. And when they
Hmm.
ask to explain, or they throw out some contradiction, some hypocrisy, it's like they can't answer it either.
Hmm.
So it is worth to dig into what one's morality is. This
Sure.
is something that in the new leftism was really important, especially when busting on creationists or evangelical Christians to explain why secular humanism is superior and actually call it that. It's like, well, it's
Hmm.
superior because it reflects human rights better, or it leads to better outcomes, and then you get Steven Pinker type of logic of like, well, see, look how much better things are when things are secular humanistic or whatever, or something like that.
Oh God, Steven Pinker. He's been coming up in the news lately for his
Really?
radical centrism. Yeah, I can't
Well,
remember what it was he
what's the
said.
recent thing? Because I mean,
I'd have to think about it to recall exactly. But basically, I think it's more of his peddling. This is the best of all possible worlds. Everything's on a good path, and y'all just need to shut up and look at these statistics. It shows that everything's better, and that sort of thing.
but that was pre-COVID. What's he saying today?
I think he's still on the same thing, basically.
Well, it's his job. I mean, it's his career. But
Moves books.
it hit differently. Um, Back when I was a new atheist, it was in my waning years in the skeptic movement, actually, when he put out his kind of premiere book, "Are Better Angels,"
Oh
and
yeah.
and I was being skeptical of the conclusion or the thesis,
Hmm.
and it was something I would actually argue about with my fellows, about how not just optimistic, but like it was on the cusp of like it was basically an argument happening in 2014-13 where you had a section of the skeptic atheist movement that wanted to make the world a better place by being social justice activists at the very least, atheism plus, and the reactionaries. There were every type of liberal and sometimes or right wing libertarian, and or radical centrists like Pinker, who would argue that no, everything's actually great. There's no alternative. The only thing we can do is erode religious supremacy or something, or any kind of supremacy. It's balance is the good. Justice is in the balance between these extremes, whether they be social democrats being one extreme and the right being the other. And I was part of the camp saying that's bullshit. The evangelical right, the Christians we're complaining about and fighting against are a circle in a circle Venn diagram with the right and Republicans, and
pretty much
we're not going to pretend otherwise. Which was a lot of the nonprofit leaders. Maybe this is a pattern similar in the environmental movement and others. Well, they have donors who are richer and they're capitalists. And so they didn't want any kind of lefty leaning political messaging happening, or like that. It's almost like it was encouraged. Like, no, you got to do outreach to the right as atheists because they're out there. It's not about politics. It's not about economics. We're just here to deconvert the radical loonies. But then I was like, there wasn't enough discussion of the material base of why are they radical. It just seemed to be, it's idealist, to a fault.
Yeah, the idea that they've just been duped into the ideology, and if they would just get rid of that, everything would be, hunky dory for everybody. But yeah, doesn't quite work out that way, because a lot of people fall into religion because of their material conditions, because they're in desperate situations, and so they're looking for someone to turn to show them a way forward. And oftentimes, religious communities are all too happy to take up that cause for them. So
yeah, Q counts as that, by the way.
Yes, it does. It is wow. What that has morphed into is just phenomenal and scary to see at the same time. I haven't heard much about that cult that was forming outside of Dallas lately, but there was one that they were convinced that JFK and JFK Jr. were both going to come back to where.
The group that met. Yeah, the group that had a public standout.
Yeah, and they had started drinking bleach on the regular and stuff like that.
What?
It was like it was.
Oh, right, because bleach cures COVID or something.
Right. It was their inoculate against COVID. They thought. So
well, it also kills half the other stuff. Most of your body is actually bacteria. We're actually not like only half of us is us. I mean, besides the 70% water, the 30% left is, well, that includes all cells really, but
right.
It's a whole microbiology. Looking at the microbiology of it, but But I want to point out, the most of the conspiracy theory minded are also evangelical, and that is Christians. I mean, and so the overlap is really like hasn't changed since a decade or 2 decades ago. That most of the creationists, flat earthers, cures, and so on are also all Bible thumpers. It's like it just goes to their base of knowledge is the Bible, and they're just trying to make all new information and knowledge that includes code, whatever new thing that happens has to basically be explained by their biblical worldview, where the devil is literally in the details. But I'm a Satanic Temple kind of guy. I'm kind of like, I like the character of Satan or any kind of depictions of devils or demons or whatever as being like not the opposite of angels, but just like they help humanity in their own way or something. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like I would like to see well, now never mind like shows like Lucifer and whatever, but like I imagine a show where it's sort of like a moral of the week, but instead of like angels helping people, it's actually a team of demons, and they each have a vice that's assigned to them. There's a lust character and there's a pride character, and they each basically get assigned to help somebody, and they basically help them by countering because virtues can also go to an extreme. So like if you're too chaste, you're an incel. If you are too too generous, like there's all the virtues can be taken too far as well.
People take advantage.
So they kind of need to be slid back. So like the person who's too generous with their time is a doormat, and so the pride demon comes and is like, you guys stand up for yourself, and helps them like does this magic thing to help them stand up for themselves. I'm like, see, man, another earn my bat wings.
I love that idea. I would actually watch that show. That
I guess I have
really
to.
Fun.
Got to pitch it to some kooky online animators.
I
mean, that's kind of what Hell of a Boss kind of is. Not that, but it's a show of demon life. That's really funny. Have you seen? I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Great. Highly recommend. Very gory, but it's about 3 imps that are guns for hire, and it's just their life, and It's fine.
That's cool.
The voice actor that does Invader Zim also does one of the imps.
Ooh.
So you recognize one of the voices.
Iconic voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. All right. Well, I think maybe we should check out.
Actually do videos. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. I do enjoy the banter though as well. That's always fun. So we have a really long Michael Parenti speech as one suggestion. We have a very long, really scuffed audio Kwame Ture speech, which I'm sure is amazing, but the audio is garbage. It sounds like it was recorded inside someone's backpack. And then we have some ones that I just kind of looked up myself. Got one on why are we still widening highways in the U.S. Some stuff from Blue Blunt Ben. Like how does, let's see.
I can look at what I've been saving.
Sure, yeah.
I have a 10-minute video. But as far as the lectures go, we can certainly play 10 minutes, because with some lectures, basic like cut of 10 minutes can be as good as any of them. Like a good lecture will be like broken up.
Yeah, sure. So let's start with the Parenti one then, and then we'll go from there.
Daddy Parenti.
Daddy Parenti. It's not yellow tapes.
Have you seen the Virgin Chad meme where it's the Virgin Chomsky, the Chad Parenti?
No, but I can imagine it. That's funny. All right, let's give this one a try here.
Hordes. Michael Parenti is an author and political analyst. Among his books are The Sword and the Dollar, Inventing Reality, History is Mystery, and his latest, The Terrorism Trap. This talk was given in 1989 in North Hollywood, California, during the administration of George Bush I, an administration consisting of most of the same players that occupy positions in the present Bush administration. In the talk, Parenti looks at the entertainment media as a propaganda vehicle for American ruling class interests and attitudes. With the recent spate of war movies and TV shows glorifying the CIA, FBI, and police, this 13-year-old talk is eerily relevant. Control of media is even more concentrated now than 13 years ago, as most major media outlets are subsidiaries of massive corporations with interests in a variety of areas, including armaments. At the time this talk was given, Saddam Hussein was a great friend of the United States, and Osama bin Laden was, in the words of the great communicator Ronald Reagan, the moral equivalent of America's founding fathers.
I want to today give attention to the other side of the media, not the news media, but the entertainment media, because the entertainment media consumes a much larger share of the viewing time of most Americans than do the news programs. And I thought I would call this book something like The Hidden Political Images of the Entertainment Media. And then as I thought about it, I said, well, what's so hidden about it? It's rather blatant. And what I looked at are Hollywood films That's what I'm studying. Hollywood films and TV dramas, TV miniseries, teleplays, and the like. What I find is a real abundance of images and ideologies, ones that are essentially supportive of imperialism, anti-communism, capitalism, racism, sexism, militarism, say militarism twice, militarism, authoritarian violence, vigilantism, and anti-working class attitudes. More specifically, I found these kinds of themes. Individual heroics predominate over collective action. There's almost no collective action. There's almost no story or drama where the people organize together and do something for themselves. I mean, there are one or two exceptions. When they do, when there is collective action, they're usually led by some hero who has to...
Yes, sir.
Just to give an example of an exception, because I was thinking about this while riding the bus the other day. What movies where collective? Because I was thinking about it in terms of superhero movies. That most problems in superhero movies would be solved if people were actually like political beings,
Right.
or acted politically in any way. Because there's usually never if politics is ever actually done in superhero stories.
No, just
it's
punch,
like
punch.
it's
blast,
it's
blast.
the game is over.
You're right.
I mean, vigilantism and the whole like regulation of metahumans or superpowers or whatever. Anyway, Revenge of the Nerds comes to mind. Usually,
Revenge of the Nerds. Wow.
thrown out as because of the rape in it.
Yeah.
But that aside, which totally there, the jocks and the administration that are also jocks are beaten. The powers that be are beaten with a general strike. That is that's the climax. The climax of the movie is a general strike.
Is it really? Jeez. Man, it's been a while since I've seen it.
It's buried because no one talks about it. People talk about the rape, which is important, or people just remember the comedy of it or something. But there's a lot of movies where just as the militarism and the jingoism is kind of, if not buried, but subtext, so are the times where there is collective action, so much so that it's unnoticed, and it also needs to be pointed out in a media criticism left tube essay, which could be something that, say, we ask of This Is Hell or one of the other left tubers who would do this, maybe Big Joel. Is it Joe? No, Jose. Jose is the one who goes through. He goes through sitcoms. And goes through like where the politics are in it. And yeah, so that would be a project trying to get a list of every movie, American-made movie, obviously, over the in the postmodern era, that where the day was saved by some kind of collective political action that wasn't just like a political campaign story or something. Yeah, but so Revenge of the Nerds is the only thing I could think of short notice.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that one. In terms of just collective action. I mean,
and there's intersectionality. Because the nerds, though they do kind of omit that they are white, they join a black fraternity.
Was it? Oh, really? I don't remember that part of it either.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, I mean, it's been a real long time. It's probably
they were rejected by all the fraternities because they're losers.
Yeah.
Or they look like
right.
losers. But they don't send one to the Tri-Lambs, which Lambda, which is a black fraternity, and they didn't send a picture, so they were approved, or at least temporarily approved. But then they get found out, but then they make their case, an intersectional case, basically, that we're also an oppressed group as nerds. I forget how the scene exactly plays out, but the climax is where they're about to be expunged or something, but then or they're about to be beat up, and then a bunch of Tri-Lambs, which are basically Black Panther bad motherfuckers, roll up, and they got their back.
Oh, that's awesome. Man, I guess I'm gonna have to rewatch that one because, man, I'm not remembering much of anything from it.
It's well, I'm sure a lot of it is cringe now, especially when they're talking about ooh, the chicks, ooh.
Yeah, pretty much. But just thinking of examples of collective action being the hero of the day, I guess there's one episode of The Walking Dead that comes to mind, and it's where they're in Alexandria, which is like this walled city, and it's populated mostly by people that haven't had to experience any sort of zombies firsthand. Like they happen to be a rich gated community, so they had resources to last for a really long time.
This is
So other than
Alexandria, Virginia.
yeah, it's in Virginia.
It's
And
across the
so
river from DC, basically.
something like that, yeah. So
One
there's
of them.
there's like a handful of people that go out and do supply runs and stuff like that, but everyone else just lives their normal suburban life. Uh, and this zombie horde attacks, and they overwhelm the walls. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of zombies, and maybe 100 residents total. And at first, it's the main heroes, you're Rick and Carl and Michonne and all the regulars who are fighting off the zombies, but they quickly are overwhelmed, and they see that they're not going to win just for their, as elite as they are, they can't fend off all of them. And so they call out to the people in the houses, like, come out, we can do this. You don't have to be afraid. And like one by one second, one by one, the people actually come out of their house. And even though they're incredibly terrified, and they grab whatever weapons they have, and they destroy all the zombies, and they beat them all back. So that episode really stuck with me too, of all the different episodes they had, because it was like the one time when it wasn't just, oh, Rick's got a plan, so now we're gonna save the day and defeat the boss of the week or whatever.
Well, to make it even harder, I think I would point like add a modifier to the ask that it can't just be like the heroes inspiring a mass of people,
Okay.
like a demigod,
Ooh.
and it needs to be like a collective solution made.
Your
Yeah,
audio
okay,
just
so there's
switched.
it. Okay, sorry.
Ah, back.
Shifted my mic and the tap came out. So, I mean, I think there's some difference that should be
Sure.
recognized between collective action, where it is like a political, not just political, but I mean, like it's like real collective action versus a crowd being urged on and they're following.
Okay.
But but they each do their part because they know they have and then they get instinctively that the part that they can play based on their talents or whatever, or what they're holding.
Yeah.
Well,
I
maybe
just
there
thought
isn't maybe there isn't a difference, but I wanted to muse on it.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that particular episode, yeah, it's definitely the elites urging them on, but and I'm not the most versed in vanguardism, the communist vanguardism, but
I
it
guess
seems like a similar sort of concept where you have the elites who know what's going on, and they push everyone forward, and eventually there's a mass movement, and they overwhelm the zombies, which I guess would represent the old way, the capitalists.
Yeah, and the difference being that even though it's still hierarchical, to speak from push against an anarchist point of view, is that when it's capitalist, they're rallying people to do what's in the elite's best interest.
For
When
sure.
the elites are giving orders or divvying out tasks to do or inspiring people in a mass, it's to do what's best for that crowd.
Right.
Yeah. Which is like, well, how can if you go individualistic enough, only the individual can know what's best for the individual, which I would push back against that. Like that it's sophistic. You can't know you can't understand anyone else, their situation, what their material conditions could be, or what improvements could be made. That it basically throws out all expertise. It throws out all division of labor, I guess, which is, in some political tendencies is all got to go. But that's never the way human societies have ever been, anthropologically speaking. So you always still had shamans you still had leaders of certain types with certain roles.
Sure.
But not the QAnon shaman.
No, very different.
He wasn't a leader.
Oh, I heard one of his rambling speeches the other day. He was interviewed by Channel 5, Andrew
I
Callahan.
didn't want to have to bring that up because we would dig into it, but I wanted to point out that despite the QAnon religion and dogmas or whatever, but that interview, I only got maybe half an hour in, but when he was finally asked about QAnon and he started going into his run-on sentence, right? And Andrew, being an interviewer, interviewers never interrupt.
Right.
Or good interviewers don't interrupt. They just let people talk. That's interviewing 101. You just
They're
let
bringing
people
out
talk.
them. Yeah, it's not about you.
But that run-on sentence thing where he's listing out everything he basically believes about how the world works and whatever. And with it being preceded by, I did my research. I don't want to come off as crazy. I'm actually very reasonable. When I do drugs, it's in a moderated, not too much, regulated fashion. I just have chill New Ager beliefs about being a shamanism. And I'm just following the human traditions that go back to, the ancestors. But that's every conversation I've ever had with a New Ager, no matter what they might be landing on the political spectrum. But it's also why I feel that no matter where they are, they're useless, whatever movement they're in, because they're always just going to talk, and you have to interrupt them. And they go into a narcissistic coma of sorts where they just do not, it's like they blank out. They don't, maybe it's the drugs. Maybe it's the expanded consciousness where you can, in fact, tunnel vision down and you're a hose that you have to, the conversation has ended. You're not talking to a person. You're not going to stop and ask, are you following this? Or do you have any questions? Yeah, it just goes into not even a lecture. We'll still does anyone have any questions? But a New Ager who goes on a rant will just go.
Yeah.
And they're not talking to you anymore because they don't care if you're listening. Or if you actually tell them, I'm not listening to you because you're not making any sense, then they will get upset. No matter how chill they started. Chill age hippie, gardener, it doesn't matter. If it's just pot, if it's just, I feel like it's a personality type that's just really narcissistic. And they're useless in political movements. And the Green Party has their share of them. And any movement does. And because it's our society, and so the right wing will also have their share of those. But it's interesting that I think they only have those conversations when they do when it's they're given enough time, right? It can't just be 10 minutes because then you get the rational bits, and then if you give them another 20 minutes, then you'll get the rant or the run-on sentence. And so the time that Andrew gave him got an hour with him. So otherwise, he's in the mall doing his shtick, and it's like literally a TikTok video. Yeah. And so you just get crazy, but not the kind of recognizable crazy that you find at the Deadhead Fest or Channel 5's other recent videos going to the fish.
That was another good one
fish
too.
Place where
the fish alley. Yeah.
God, they're not consumerist because it's about the music, but it's completely consumerist. If you took out this, whatever they're spending money on, or the experiences, or whatever the hell, like their experience shopping, what would they have? It's not like any of them are playing instruments. It's not like any of them are doing any music or have any hobbies besides being fish fans.
Right.
And it drives me nuts. Because there are these whole swaths of communities that, I mean, like Juggalos, at least, like they rallied on the mall because the outside world intruded on their jamboree.
Yeah.
But they are so in their own world.
Absolutely.
Because if you ask them about like the outside world, they would just be as dumb as any, Fox News boomer.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
mean, you heard a lot of
in the way
Fox
in the way
News
they
talking
in the way
points.
they in the way they talk about current events.
Yeah.
They're like little children.
Hmm.
Or that in that video, of course, it's edited, of course, but it's like I actually, I don't know if I was triggered, but I actually was like at a party where a woman who was blazed out propositioned me in the same manner as that other woman, and it is as creepy in person
It's
as it
weird.
was in the video, where it's like I think I'm being propositioned, but they're using I've never encountered before. I don't even know if
Hmm.
I have a basis to understand, like if she's asking for to
Hmm.
go in the closet or what, find privacy or something. But of course, I
Hmm.
don't want to. Even
Right.
if I was really horny, I'd actually say no.
Because it's just weird. Yeah.
Because I don't know you, whatever, and
Right. Yeah.
yeah, but or you the aura. They think that they're so chill, but the aura is actually really strained, if I may use their terminology. I feel
Hmm.
strained when I'm around new agers and they start talking about how empathetic they are and how they were
Hmm.
like they understand people, and then the next breath they'll say everyone's trash and everyone's shit.
That's it.
Humanity
That's
can
it.
die, and it's like
Right.
fuck everyone. They're just in my way, and it's because they can't wrap their head around like collective issues or something like.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
it's so crazy, but that's America.
yeah. Well, it's like I'm so empathetic. They only use that as a way to show how much better they are than other people. It's the same thing with like yoga. They'll get in really deep into yoga just so they can say, "You don't get it, man. You haven't done 10,000 hours of, whatever type of yoga it is." And
Mm.
yeah, so I agree. It's
And
a very
sometimes it's
narcissistic
luck. It's
vein.
luck. It's luck if they're like in shape, but for the most part, they'll also be really unhealthy.
Yeah, because it's
Despite,
about
yeah,
them.
or they'll
And
have certain health problems. Maybe they got them earlier in life, or they develop them over time, and it's
mhm,
impossible unless you were a doctor to tell them. But they have to go to their own doctors or whatever, and it scares me because it does trickle in to normie life. Because, like, say my brother and sister-in-law, they're like going to chiropractors and they're bringing the nieces, and none of them are over the age of 10 yet. One of them is, but are they doing it on the baby? Because I remember I'm just having flashbacks to
yeah,
the
that's
Penn and
weird.
Teller episode where they cover chiropractors and how like they're not actually doctors. They're
Right.
basically they're given the education of like a beauty clinician,
Hmm.
um, someone who dyes hair or something, and there's no actual science backing it up. There's no actual
Right.
medical documentation or trials or whatever, and you have chiropractors doing it on children before their like
Oh,
joints are even set or whatever.
yeah, that sounds
And
really
it's
dangerous.
it's like it's part placebo. It's just cracking. It's like, well,
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
crack my
it does
joints
feel
whenever
good.
I
Yeah, yeah.
stretch. If I stretch, I
Uh-huh.
crack my joints. If I work out, I
Hmm.
start cracking my joints, and then I feel
Hmm.
great. Is that what
Yeah.
a chiropractor is doing? Just cracking the joints without the exercising or without doing anything physical? Is that
Yeah,
what's
I
happening?
guess so.
That's the only way I can wrap my head around it. But otherwise, like,
I don't know.
how would they crack your neck more than what I could do by
Yeah,
do
then what you
that?
just do yourself.
Because like I'm only speaking this way because like I watch ASMR stuff, and there's like chiropractor role play,
Oh,
and it's just
yeah,
like I'm
that's
gonna
huge.
move the camera, and
Ew.
it's fun. But I'm like, wait, but that's as far as my neck actually goes.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're pulling it more.
Hmm.
It's just assisted stretching.
That's fun. All right. Well, we're getting way
Wow,
far off
that
here
was
from
2 minutes, 2 minutes of
Rambo and the
parenti.
Swarthy Heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. And I guess there's one more little aside there. I used to be more a part of like hippie sort of jam band sort of community. And I was really shocked to learn just how much of a right wing current there is that runs through all of those movements. Like they'll believe in it's similar to like a right libertarian mindset where they'll believe in all the drugs and all the mind opening stuff, but it's all in
Yeah.
service of themselves. And at the same
Yeah.
time, they're like you said, super judgmental of everyone who's outside, often racist. Um, there's it's just so weird. You'd
They're
think that those
capitalists
two would
without
be
capital.
Yeah, yeah. I guess
They're
that's a good way to
capitalists
put it.
without capital, because when it comes down to it, they don't care about the money, or they want enough to do what they want to do. So they don't have like the I must have more, I must be successful, but they'll have
Hmm.
all the other social values.
Uh-huh.
So it's just like they
Yeah.
picked out the ones that like maybe like make them look better by saying, well, I'm not about the money,
Right.
man. I'm not about, being, I can have a business, right? Like all those people at the Fish Fest.
Uh-huh.
And, but like, and I'm not about the money, but I am going to sell as much as I can or something like that. Or you have
Uh-huh.
those other people, but maybe they're just hangers on, but, like the gas guys.
Yeah.
That was, but yeah. Anytime Andrew was talking to the guys and they were like explaining and sounding so deep, but obviously you literally had those two guys that went up and started mocking the guy about how bullshit he sounded,
Uh-huh.
and it's like, what? Yeah, layers and layers, man. It's like, oh yeah, he's making a good, and they feel so empowered, like I'm making a really
Uh-huh.
great point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really laying on the wisdom, man, and on this guy. But you could read that. It's been said a million times in a million self-help books.
Yep.
It's so surface level. It's surface level. Because if
Absolutely.
you
It's
if
very
you want to have a
surface
deeper conversation, it'll go nowhere.
level. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking. I'm talking about from personal experience. And
Oh, me too, because a lot of it's just window dressing.
it's
It's just
window. Yeah. They don't
I've
actually. They don't
latched
actually
onto a
read.
phrase.
Yeah, they
No.
don't actually read. If they did, it was like a beginner's, like a kid's version of like Buddhism or something.
Right, right.
And
They'll,
that's always
they'll
the
yeah.
cringiest kind.
They'll latch onto some phrase like, manifest what you want in your life, and then, they'll open up their crystal shop with like a $50,000 loan from their parents, and they'll just convince themselves that they've manifested this, working business because they wanted it in their life, and that sort of thing. And
I mean, I was a home health aide for someone who, and this is like the main person I'm working off of when talking about this stuff, but she's not the only one. She has well-off parents who live in suburbia in the area, and she's never far, but she lives in poverty pretty much because she's either too prideful to like live with them or to mooch off of them or whatever. She is pretty old now as well. She's middle age, but like she just, whenever the parents come up, she's like, "Oh yeah, they're assholes. They're like total like assholes. They wanted to like, and they like, and they're not leaving their house because of COVID and something like that." And we were picking up like one of her toolboxes from them that they were holding on to, like they were keeping them from them, but they did leave quite a far way out from a main road in Schenectady County. It was difficult to find them, but also because she gives very bad directions because she's blazed all the time. And when I got mad because like this was taking so long for an errand because we were just doing so many. We always do so many. Again, it's just she's a big child, but she has Lyme, and that really sucks. But I have to wonder like how did she get Lyme? It can be random. The ticks can be random, but it's also
Sure.
like she also did a lot of traveling where she was like in sewage.
Oh.
In Kathmandu or something.
Oh.
She was in India, and it was a life-changing trip or whatever, and it was
Oh,
in
yes.
monsoon season, so the sewage is in the water and blah blah blah,
Oh, man.
and all this other stuff, and like maybe that's why you have all these problems now. But if I mention it, it's like it's all in the past, so what does it matter? But yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Let's get back.
Let's do a few more minutes of Parenti, and then
And then we'll talk more about hippies.
I think if anyone's watching this has probably watched any other like left commentary, they're probably aware of this stuff,
Yeah.
this topic.
Let's go for a few minutes then.
Spur them on and really do the whole thing himself. Free enterprise is the best economic system in the world. That's a message which is not necessarily telegraphed so much as it is presumed. Certainly there's nothing positive ever uttered about alternative systems in the entertainment media. Private monetary gain is a central and worthy objective of life, although those who are too wickedly greedy, the Dynasty guys and Dallas fellows, they can meet with disapproval. Sometimes business characters are insensitive to other people's needs because they're so busy with their business activities, but when properly apprised of the problems and such, they are suddenly capable of legendary acts of generosity, which I've never seen in real life, but I see on television dramas. Say, the kid needs the house, give it to him. They give it to, I'll give the factory to Joe, he's a good guy, and all that sort of thing. Workers are beer guzzling, regular Joes, I mean, good-natured and all that, but really not very bright, incapable. If I was to say any one consistent stereotype I've seen about how blue-collar people are portrayed in the media, with the exception of certain films. By the way, everything I say, there are a few notable exceptions. With the exception of a film like Silkwood or A Matter of Sex, or a few others, they're almost always incapable of leadership and of acting as agents of their own lives. One wonders really where labor unions came from. Labor unions are always up to not much good. They're rather insensitive to the needs of workers. Some years back, there was a TV program, Archie Bunker, All in the Family, which was supposedly against various forms of bigotry. And while it came out against the bigot, who was Archie Bunker, and made a little message statement against bigotry, every program practiced a bigotry of its own by portraying the working person as this goof and goon. And one of the big laugh lines in All in the Family was when Archie Bunker mispronounced a word, committed a malapropism, and the canned laughter would come on. That's not funny. There's nothing funny when somebody mispronounces a word. I mean, all you're saying is that he hasn't had the opportunity to have the education that some other people have had. But class bigotry is a very common form of bigotry, and it remains totally unchallenged, unlike gender bigotry or race bigotry, which at least is challenged today. The practices and forms of class bigotry go on in abundance in the media and remain unchallenged.
Or everyone was too up their own ass to correct them or something. That's why, like, it can actually be a fun little dialogue when you're around someone and they mispronounce something, or they pronounce it a way that they know how to pronounce it. And you say, you know, you don't stop them right away, of course, but you go, I mean, maybe I'm just doing this in my head, but I think maybe I should tell them, you know, just to make sure that they know that they're doing it in a non-traditional way. And like, oh yeah, I never heard that. You know, it's fine. It doesn't have to be rude. You know, I mean, if you can make it rude, and that's something that's a trope almost, that like it's assumed that to correct someone is rude, but it's usually the way it's done in media is rude, and then there's no alternative to being rude when educating someone, unless it's Sesame Street, I suppose, which is where you actually go off of progressive media, which there is an alternative. You can teach, but kids or adults in a non-condescending way. But I suppose the trope is that kids programming is talking, if not, they try their best to talk straight to a kid, right?
Right.
But then, like, it always feels like sort of it's also down at the same time.
Yeah, I guess that can be kind of hard to avoid when it comes to talking to children because, yeah, I mean, it's just ingrained in the culture that children, because they don't have experience and whatever, are at a lower level.
Well, I just picked up a book about, it's called Emergent Curriculum. So I should get some insight on that puzzle.
I mean, I try not to do that with my own kids. I try to be pretty straightforward with them and, you know, assume that they can understand the things I say. And most of the time they do, or at least a good chunk of it.
Or you actually play the why game and you have a Socratic dialogue.
Sure.
And it's authoritarians that just don't have any patience for that, because they wouldn't be able to even answer any question, even if it was an open-ended one. I said, shut up. Stop asking why.
But it is funny that you do still see that class is the punchline in media, especially with like the Southern accent. Still one of the few ways you can telegraph that someone is supposed to be looked at as stupid without actually saying it. Is, you know, get that really twang.
Sometimes when an accent's thick, it's humorous, and not because it's strange, but because it is kind of unexpected. And most Southern accents are not, intense, but like, just like on YouTube, there's lots of British YouTubers or left tubers, and sometimes they have a mild, London accent, and then sometimes they have an actual, thick Scottish accent or something,
Sure.
or a light Scottish accent. Maybe it depends on how much blending there is in their life. And that's kind of
Sure.
where thick accents come from isolation. So if
Sure.
you're more cosmopolitan you are, the more radio Eastern Seaboard voice, East Coast voice you have, like myself.
Yes, I mean, wouldn't that still telegraph?
But it doesn't have to be laughing at
stupidity?
them. More just laughing like, you're an interesting person. I don't know.
I don't know, but I mean, if it's implying that they're isolated, that too to me sounds like ignorant. That sounds like a stand-in for ignorant. So
Sure. I wanted to point out that I thought with how did these like Homer Simpson types ever unionize? The presumption from WASP culture, meaning mainstream elitist culture, I guess, is that or the American propaganda is that it comes from the outside. All labor agitation
they have to be told
comes from outside America, from evildoers abroad. Never. So where did they get it? The devil. It's literally, it has to be something from the outside. It's the devil. It always comes back around to that. It's the same answer, no matter what. So if you keep that in mind, that at the end of the day, they're God-fearing people, and there's evil in the world, and that's where things that they don't understand come from, or things that are in opposition to them in any way. And if you are a sheep or whatever, or part of the flock, then you're, and your place, then you are also, you're good, and balance is maintained because things are going their way.
Right. Don't rock the boat.
Yeah. Those questions come up with certain superhero villains, Like, how do you determine what's right and wrong, or
I see.
Stop me.
Yeah.
Besides, like harming people, and that's usually the main reasons, like because you're going to harm people. If they were just political organizers, but that's where it becomes like. But this would be like the real like Batman story I'd like to see. Someone organizing people, right? And they're doing civil disobedience or property damage. And is Batman going to stop? Like, is Batman going to like crack heads when it's a crowd of people that are like, breaking laws, but they're squatting, And he usually is not shown to be doing that. He's not cracking the heads of squatters. No. It's always about preventing murder. At the end of the day, not even theft, but usually when people are like stealing, right. But they're usually killing people or hurting people in the process. They're holding guns, or something that is equivalent to a gun.
Yeah,
there's their own power or whatever.
Interesting. All right, let's continue on a little bit more. Maybe we'll do like the first 10 minutes or so of this, and then we'll switch to something else. Maybe we can go over to some Channel 5 stuff after this.
Affluent professionals in almost all programs are considered much more interesting than blue-collar or ordinary service workers. There are many more of them as principal characters. Women and ethnic minorities are really not as capable, effective, or interesting as white males. Cop shows, the police and everyone else should be given a freer hand in combating the large criminal element in America, using generous applications of force and violence without too much attention to constitutional rights. In fact, in any number of cop shows, the cop will get up and talk about that Constitution isn't going to protect you, it's only me with my gun, and the hell with the Constitution. The ills of society are caused by individual malfactors and not by anything in the socioeconomic system. No. There are some unworthy persons in our established institutions, but they are eventually dealt with and set straight for the most part. U.S. military force is directed only toward laudable goals, or more often the goals are not even stated. It's just assumed that we've got to win this one. Nothing said about what kind of interests are involved. I mean, after all, why are people doing all this fighting and killing? It's a question that remains largely unstated. Western industrial and military might, especially the U.S.'s, has been a civilizing force for the benefit of backward peoples throughout the Third World. The United States and the entire Western world have long been threatened from abroad by foreign aggressors, such as the Russians, communist terrorists, Arab terrorists, and generally the swarthy hordes of less developed peoples. Those are, I would say, some of the general themes that come up again and again in any number of movies. And the last one is the one I want to focus on today. It's the paradigm of the wagon train versus the swarthy hordes. First enunciated very well in a marvelous article by Tom Engelhardt in the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. It could be happening in the American Wild West. It could be in the Amazon jungle, the North African desert, the Sudan, the Transvaal, the South Pacific jungles, or Indochina. The scene is generally the same.
True.
There's a fort, or an encampment, or a wagon train, and inside that encampment are the human beings. They're white. They're human. They're warm, they're attractive, they talk, and they're nice. Outside come the swarthy hordes, the savages. They can be Indians, they could be Bushmen, they can be Arabs on camels and horses or whatever else. And they are the subhumans, and they are attacking the human beings. And the wagons form their circle, and the human beings know what to do. They level their guns and they begin to knock off, shoot, and kill these screaming savages who attack them. Why do the swarthy hordes attack the white people?
Do you think we have enough now?
Yeah.
You know,
That ought to cover
Because
it.
this has been updated, obviously, like the subtext in, let's say, Hollywood, the blockbusters, and it's changed up over time. That other left tubers like Lindsay Ellis could talk about if she didn't quit. But
Yeah.
do you have a thought about that? How, like, do you feel that she made her own prison with Twitter and whatever? But didn't she quit Twitter? So how is she being, like, overly harassed again?
I try to stay away from left
I know.
drama. So
Sure. I'm not calling it
intentionally avoided
drama.
that one.
It's just an effect that, like,
Yeah.
I could see coming 3 years ago, but I was like, how else is this going to end? Like, it's just, I guess it was just a self-defeating cycle of you got to make attention for your videos, so you tweet weird stuff or you tweet opinions, and the audience is in the same game, playing the same game, so to speak. So, because Twitter is not made for discussions, so
Definitely not.
so don't have them on Twitter. It's like,
Yeah.
unless you are making a short sarcastic quip, just don't do it. Say, make it a video. Make a video that's shorter. How
Right.
Just
Make it
be
TikTok.
creative. Be creative. Or a 10-minute video instead of a 40-minute one.
Uh-huh.
Same
Yeah,
with
so-
it's because they feel like they have to tweet to have an outlet between all their videos. In the 3-month cycle, they make videos, or a monthly cycle. But it's odd because they could just make different content. Anyway.
Yeah. So what exactly happened with Lindsay Ellis? She would say weird stuff.
She did the same
drum
thing.
up
I think
ideas
it's something that can't happen like a year ago and then another year ago, where she would create. This is where it gets dicey. Is it like, so she would tweet something controversial, or at least controversial to the standards
Spicy.
of the woke mobs, whatever, the swarmy hordes. Yeah, and the left tubers in the fort, and anyway. But if a parallel is made with liberal leaning personalities, that they're besieged by the hordes out there, and there's nothing they can do to stop it, but they never ask why, or they do, but the reasons are always superficial. But it's like, is it her audience that bullies her in woke mobs her, or is it right wingers and the manosphere, crowds?
Yeah.
So there's the mob that's your audience that doesn't act as a defense against, like they're supposed to be your fort.
Sure.
Except when you tweet something and then they stop being your defense. so the right wingers get to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what happens. So it happened a third time, and it is, I'm sure it is very traumatizing when you are terminally online, I guess. But I thought Lindsay was a little less that way than, say, Natalie Wynn. Yeah, but because they're not leftists, you see. So I think it's because they're not leftists that they get enough, like they're not part of our in-group, and so they don't feel like they have a side because they're trying to be, I don't know, like, because their audience isn't social democrats. Maybe they want it to be, but that's like social democrats is a smaller slice than it seems, even though everyone kind of gravitates in that way. But it's more like we're all everything but social democrats. But the only way we act together in any kind of movement is to compromise with social democratic politics. That's the Bernie movement in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Where you even had MLs like, oh, we should join the Bernie movement so we can recruit young people. Yeah.
No,
Everyone
I
but
see
the
what you're
Greens.
saying.
Everyone but the Greens did this, and that's an interesting thing where like make Greens this way, and that it's the first organization I've ever joined. By I mean not movement but organization, where I feel like I'm actually the majority and I'm not the one who's anxious about being kicked out or decisions are going to be made that I don't like.
Yeah.
But then it's replaced by an anxiety of people who are a minority in a minority opinion, and I'm afraid of them leaving or doing actually worse, sabotaging because they didn't get their way, which occurs at times. But I've learned that they're babies and they're just throwing fits, and they either leave or they don't. And if they don't, they're going to be ineffective, and they leave, and they also find that they're also ineffective. So it's not a place to tell others to compromise when you're the person who doesn't have to. But I'm in an organization where I don't have to compromise. So you should join the, I don't know, whatever the hell you would fit in, but join something.
Sure. Yeah.
And create something you do fit in. And the thing about narcissists is they can't fit in anywhere because it's all them. And I think that's the problem with a lot of all those types, is that at the end of the day, they're not they don't have communalist values, enough of them, to actually work in a group or compromise or to feel like they can be a part of a group that's outside of their friends.
Yep, which is maybe why they fit in so well, being candidates in the capitalist system, because then they can make it all about them, and they can have the movement just form around them and
tell
send
their
minions
story.
Scurrying. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Peter Coughlin gets a lot of shit, mostly because like a lot of the others, like Bana Panada, they're really terrible people on Twitter. But I mean, they're not making bad, when they make videos that are like, real content, like I don't see anything bad. Like I actually like what they do. Like Peter Coughlin, like I watched Peter Coughlin's last video where it's about like he's pushing, it's not saying it's bad on its own, but it's pushing back against representation as a solution, because it's something that's been thoroughly commodified. That you have these nonprofits funded by the Tides Foundation, Jimmy Buffett, capitalists, about telling your story. The TED Talk. Tell your story. Tell your story. You gotta be represented. You gotta, the representation. Black business owner. What's funny is that when people they front like that on social media, but then when you're in person, they're actually totally radical and based. That's always a pleasant surprise.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's someone in my hood who is her organization that she started her own. She left the quasi-public land bank and started building blocks, or something like that. And on the front of it, she's like, black business owner, realtor, getting people
Mm-hmm.
in homes,
Mm-hmm.
selling, buying. Contact me. I got this $100,000, property. Blah blah blah. You're stupid if you don't jump on this. And then when she's doing like a neighborhood tour, where we're just looking at the stuff that's like on the land bank listing, she's totally based. She's just talking about like how like she's trying her best to do counter gentrification and make the hood less look like a bombed out war zone. Because in our neck of the woods, if you don't know the national story, a lot of New Yorkers have been moving upstate to escape COVID, or New York is one of the few
I guess I
states.
have heard that. Yeah.
New York lost population, but our region is as always has gained population because more people are moving from the crowded metro areas to our metro area because we have a lot of untapped real estate opportunities because our hoods haven't actually been gentrified yet.
Right. So get on that
we're-
train while you can.
I think my anxiety now about like getting on the property rope is that I have 2 years to buy like that fixer upper or that 80 grand, house in the hood, because it's got to shoot to twice that in 2 years. Because there are these projects that are going to be built that are meant to be the game changers that revitalize this neighborhood. But by revitalize, it means attract literally New York City homeowners that can work anywhere, I guess, or they're going to take the train and to downstate, and we'll finally build that gondola between the Capitol and the train station.
Oh, I didn't know there was even talk of a gondola. Really?
It's from 8 years ago now. I mean, it's perennial, I guess. But you see, we had a great train station in downtown Albany. And like many train stations, with the advent of trucking, the train station was closed. And after 20 years ago, a new train station was built by Amtrak, but it was done across the river. So there is a bus, but it's not a good bus line.
Sure.
You have to drive to the train station from downtown Albany.
Was it just a factor of land pricing? Why did they put it across the river?
Well, it is along the main track, but
okay.
Yes, it's that too.
Okay.
Yeah, because all the land where, well, for one thing, the trains tracks would not. Yes, it's a matter. Well, it's a matter of our throughway highway. I mean, our Riverside Highway. The Riverside Highway blocks any train access that isn't the port. So, yeah. So passenger rail can't go into downtown anymore unless it's buried, but we're not burying anything. Not with our soil conditions and or budgets. Yeah. But there's a new group of professionals, PMCers, who have organized a collaborative to at least push more openly and publicly. So it's something we haven't had, a group that advocates for tearing down the highway. And
That's a shame.
They're doing a liberal fashion, of course, but like it's kind of hard to, who do you organize for this? People who just like the river, people who want train access again, but that's not, even if that was the case, because we can't remove the roads, we can just boulevardize it like other cities have done. German cities bury their highways like Big Dig style stuff.
Sure,
we can't do any of that.
Don't got the budget for that.
But there's still the train line, so we can't make it completely at level. There would still need to be footbridges and stuff that go over it or something with the train, but maybe we'll go under. But yeah. What's next?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll just move on. That's fine. Why don't we look at that fish lot video from Channel 5?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I watched Hassan's reaction, but
I did too. But we
got our own stuff that we can.
We can make our own React Andy content.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do.
That's right.
Got to participate. Don't just sit on the sidelines.
No, you got to get in there, get in the trenches. Culture war. All right, good.
Everything will see all right.
All right, so this is Channel 5, Andrew Callahan from All Gas No Brakes fame, interviewing the people who hang around outside of Fish concerts and may or may not actually even like Fish. It seems like half the people he interviewed actively hated Fish. So
that's the thing. It's more of a subculture of jam band music.
Yeah,
and I want to go on record now. I hate jam band music. I've never gone to Fish.
Yeah,
I've had the opportunity. His old friend, because they're aging boomers. They went to Fish when they were at Saratoga, and he has Grateful Dead albums, plenty, and I don't like any of it.
No.
And the same goes for Deadheads are the same as Fish. They're the same kind of subculture, more or less.
I think Dead even more though. Those songs just never seem to end, and it's just like the same chorus again and again and again. Like I can take some jam music. I used to be a lot more into it, but yeah, I have to be in a certain mood, I guess. But some of that,
it's chill out. I mean, it makes sense to put in context. Like I can understand why someone would like it. It's chill out music when you're high.
Right, exactly. If you're high, and
if you're anything else,
just need a nice thing to vibe out to. Sure.
Yeah, and if it's anything else, you're doing anything else, you're lit. You know, it's just it's dumb. But my dad was listening to it in a car, not high. So, but it was like a best of album, and I could get and I did listen to it. It was the first time I'd really just listened to the Dead, and something to point out, mention that the Dead was kind of subsumed by Fish. So Fish started in the 80s. So that's something I kind of forget. They're not super old, but
right. Yeah, I guess they aren't super old. That's true. Yeah, but like Grateful Dead, their best of or their greatest hit stuff is completely different than what their live shows. Their live shows were just like one long, noodle and repeat session.
Certain jazz can be like that, but jazz also can have structure.
Still, right. It's
just why it's
saying
it's
something
not right
going somewhere.
Yeah, it's not accurate to call it jazz chaos or anything like that. But
right.
Because even the solo is following chords and stuff.
Right. It's trying to play with stuff in a deliberate way. It's not just noodling around and chill and having.
Isn't the case that they're doing the same thing? That they're also, I don't know. That they're working
it
with.
Seems a lot less serious. It seems a lot lighter.
The
way they're approaching it. But anyway,
that's the point, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. Let's look at Fish Lot from Channel 5.
What do you guys think about Fish?
Love them. A little weird, but I love them a lot. But I don't understand them at all, to be honest. I listen to the lyrics, and I have no idea what they're talking about. They drop albums. It's all
I know there were lyrics.
It's 100% one song.
I think
it's one song.
Wow. There's more than one song.
Yeah. There's like 5 songs in there.
Fish, yeah. They're really pushing themselves there. Oh man, when they get to this guy.
I got the gas.
I got the gas. Now, do you think he's talking about
acid grows your cerebellum in your brain?
Oh, sorry. And go ahead.
When you think when they were doing we got all gas, but they didn't say brakes. So I'm thinking they're hyped because no gas, no brakes. Because when he was doing that,
right?
But then they're like, no, we just got gas. So I don't think they're in on it. They're just talking about gas. What they're selling. So they're just hyping, not hyping Andrew. That's a shame. But I think there are some others later that do. So.
Oh
yeah. Okay. Yeah. This master.
Methamphetamine kills your mind, makes holes in your brain. You get disconnected. You're retarded and you're criminals. Stop doing it.
Have you ever done methamphetamine before?
Yes, of course I've done it. I'm from California. It's garbage. Stop jerking off. Stop doing meth. Stop stealing and robbing people and being fucking idiots. Smoke weed, you dumb little shits. Learn how to drive a stick shift, make a fire, and go camping. Play Frisbee on LSD outdoors. Stop bullshitting around with your stupid thumbs. Fuck your thumbs and fuck your bullshit. I just got my mother's car stolen at a skateboard park by tweakers. They stole my speaker, stole my car, stole my skateboard.
So pause
I
it,
called the cops. They're dealing.
This is what I mean by run-on sentence.
Yeah.
There's no pause.
Totally unprovoked.
He doesn't stop to think, where do I go from here? No, I'm on about the kids, the snotty kids, so now I'm going to talk about how this affected me. I'm not just giving advice for their benefit because I'm like a sagely guy. No, it's because I was robbed, and that's why I'm actually, it was never about giving sage advice and like being like, being moral. It's actually just, it's all a rant.
It's all just
so it's like
get
so
off
some
my lawn,
conversations that he has with this video will start or like kind of feel like they're talking about
saying something,
the big picture or something outside of themselves, but actually it's always about them. Even when it seems like it's not. So that's something.
Definitely so.
With it, God bless. They could, if they needed a car that bad and a speaker, I'd gift it to those kids. I'm not attached. I'm unlimited. I believe in the universe, and music is my religion. And when I die, I just want to come back as a song. Fish rules.
It's the greatest band ever.
They're better than ever right now. I've been seeing them since the 80s.
I have a mortgage and a family, but on the weekends I do this.
You're wearing a suit. I'm not.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, I'm not a fish. I'm here for fish.
It was fucked up what they did to you, bro. It was fucked up what they did to you, bro.
What are you talking about?
Man, they took your show, treated like shit, dude. You created it from ground floor. Boom. Fuck those people, dude. You still out here doing it. All gas, no what? Channel 5, fool. Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Channel 5.
Pause.
Yeah.
Wanted to point out that chick is like the leftist meme. You know the leftist meme where it's a girl in dreadlocks.
Oh, the very self-satisfied.
Yeah. That's her.
Yeah.
That's her.
Yeah, pretty much.
And yeah. Okay. Sorry. I had another kind of thought, but they're gonna be popping in, of course.
I'm sure it will come back.
Yeah, it's a song about communication.
Are you a good communicator?
Yes.
Are you a strategic communicator?
Yes.
What's your favorite way to communicate?
Actually, Zoom and Microsoft Teams, because I work in the energy business.
All my kids are big fans of
Pause.
Andrew
Pause.
here.
I got it. That really hit me hard when he says I work in the energy business. Similar to all the right-wing events he goes to as well.
Right.
It's all just the subconscious, like, fuck. These are normal people with normal normie jobs.
Right.
And they're big, they're subliminal, they're having a great time, they're vibing. And what do they do like for as a living? They're probably wrecking the world. Like they're all monsters. They're in marketing. They're in the energy sector. Which type of energy? Fuck it. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's bad.
Probably not solar.
Like if you actually ask, like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Either they couldn't answer because they don't do shit. Even hobby-wise, or they do something they'd be ashamed of in this context. But what you can say about all these events is that everyone, of course, is vibing and stupid and whatever. It's because nothing about this is like conscious or like the conscious mind. It's there's this there's a need to express the subconscious, and parties, clubs, events, whatever. They're realms. They're space to express the subconscious because the capitalist city provides no such space unless it's at a very high price like the club. But of course, concerts are not free either.
No, that's true.
Carnivals and big public like parties and holidays are meant to be that space. But that space has been commodified. So it can't be, it's of material. So it's not, I guess you could say certain holiday things are like expressions of the subconscious and like greed, desire. I want this or whatever, or whatever.
No,
okay,
that's definitely true. Like even thinking of our big winter carnival that we have in Minneapolis, St. Paul. There's almost nothing you can do that's free that's involved. It's all been centered around buying from local vendors and just consuming this and that.
Well, even if it's just cheap, everything's like $5. So if you go with a 20 or 2 in your pocket, you'll have enough. $40 should be enough. Like that. I think that maybe that's the rule for a socialist that a good time should not be more than $40. And I think about like gaming and how cheap that is. You know, you got a lot of bang for your buck. And a lot of people, gamers express our subconscious through that, though it's not very social. When we go to conventions or nerd things, that is when we're expressing our subconscious, and that's literally why we take on persona, cosplay, whatever. It's more than just art, you know. It's going wild. Though I don't feel very wild when I'm at the anime party, but that's because like I'm not if I was in a bigger group or something.
But I mean, that too is a very commodified experience as well. Like getting into see the people you want to see talk, just getting into the event itself, getting the hotel room, like it's all very.
If you're traveling, if you have to travel, I'm talking about like the local anime fest that the RPI has, and that's just $35 for the ticket for the weekend, and that's basically like, there's the art vendors, but like, again, I could buy with $40, I can get like the stuff on my walls comes from there, and it was I never spent more than $50 or whatever. It was affordable, but and they don't. It's not like So I'm also working off of something from Pattern Language, where it's like there should be a carnival district in every city, which Coney Island kind of was for New York City. and of course you have bar districts are basically the equivalent now. You have bar districts, and maybe if they're like Las Vegas, they'll have some kind of carnival ride or something, but it's always very, very limited in the infrastructure. But if imagine if you had a dedicated neighborhood that wasn't just bars and whatever, but also brothels and clean sex work and I mean non-exploitative sex work and all that stuff.
For sure, we have a little bit of a theater district in Minneapolis, but basically it's a handful of like half dozen theaters, all next to a bunch of bars and clubs. So that's
again, it's like it's not integrated. Like all the entertainment could be in one place, but they're not. They either have to be separated based on whether they're highbrow or lowbrow or whatever, and always vice fueled. I like that those meme of like a bar is a what's the thing called for like a drug. I don't know, just comparing a bar to like the safe ejection site.
Safe ejection. Oh. Yeah, I don't know what you would call that, but I see what you're saying.
Supervised drug use.
Like a harm reduction site sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely, because it's it's at least instead of drinking alone and potentially hurting yourself, you're out with other people who supposedly have some care for you. So
whatever.
Yeah, I can see that.
Anyway, sorry, let's go on. We got more.
Yes.
More video.
What's your favorite way to communicate?
Actually, Zoom and Microsoft Teams, because I work in the energy business.
All my kids are big fans of Andrew here.
Really?
Absolutely.
Shout out to Zane, Zoe, and Ruben.
Thanks.
You got the best dad at the fish lot.
That's right.
Promise it. Can I check your shirt out real quick?
Abercrombie and Fitch. Feminist Abercrombie and Fitch. My sister gave it to me,
Why does he say that so dirty?
It's a nice shirt.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Give this to me.
Like my dad.
What does your dad do for a living?
He was a monk.
Is he still a monk?
No, he passed away 6 months ago.
Rest in peace, man.
Thank you. But he wore a rope and sandals and habit.
Habit?
Old school style.
Yeah, this is where I'm making this up. Yeah, I don't know if he's serious. But he says habit and like
right.
I become grounded, and then find myself.
I'm grounded.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. Anything else you want to say to the world?
Well, expressing your subconscious is how you ground oneself. And that's kind of what people use drugs for, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to do it on their own. I think I'm able to do it on my own, in the privacy of my own home, but with drugs. And but that's how they do it. Like, because otherwise they can't let go or something. I don't know. Or maybe my I have a balance between these two forces. Of course, it's all conceptual, really, subconscious, conscious. It's Freudian terms, right? It's not like they're actually real things or real biology to it.
But I mean, you definitely do see that the permission to let yourself go, especially with like alcohol. A lot of people, their true self comes out when they're drinking. And
I'll be clear, it's masturbation for me. But
okay, that's cool. Hey, whatever, whatever grounds you, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
But I'm only using what I have.
That's good. Gotcha.
Love fish for the community, and rightfully so. It's something we all rally behind and something we all love, and it gives you your clan.
So if someone in the fish community doesn't have health insurance and they need surgery, does that mean other members will like raise a charity fund for it? Like is that stuff happening? Because I don't know what the community means here, except that they have a shared experience in the subculture, I guess. So and I guess that's all community can be sometimes, but it's like the left tuber videos about consumer subcultures and geekery, that you get real toxic real fast, because if you challenge it, it's your identity and it's your community, but it's really just what you buy.
Right. It's a very it's a consumer lifestyle more so than any sort of real reciprocal mutual aid community. Yeah.
Like I belong, like I'm home. I feel like I'm part of a group of people that knows what the hell this is all about, And also, like, it just makes me fucking dance. I'm Mars Sanford, and I've been to around 230 fish shows. Worcester in '95, Olympic Center.
Oh yeah,
Harvard Civic Center. Back to Madison Square Garden, back to Worcester, Philly, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and then that year for New Year's. Oh no, that was the year prior. New Year's.
It's like a Disney adult.
Wait, is it? No, I'm right. Yeah, January 1st, 2015, where I met my wife. At its best times, the show experiences a presence blackout. Like, that's what'll happen in the middle of the show. You'll think, oh my God, I forgot I still owe on my insurance bill, and like, oh my God, is everything gonna be okay at the hotel? Did I get this out of the car? And then you snap back to it and you're like, no. I don't know if you've ever meditated, but it's like meditation where you're observing your thoughts and you just realize and you let them go. Yeah, presence, I guess.
You just explained that really badly, because he made it sound like he snapped, like he just backwards. Like you just, when you're in a concert, you snap and you start thinking about trivial shit.
Yeah.
Did you notice how he worked? Like he did it backwards. That's how
I did not.
That's how
it was just such a word salad vibe that was going on.
Okay.
And I kind of was just trying.
Well, it became word salad, but like it started. But that's the thing. It's a salad because like it's out of order. Like they don't plan their sentence out before saying it. They're just like it's stream of consciousness. Whatever. They're expressing their subconscious all the time. Like if you do enough drugs, you get locked in and you can't stop, and then you're unlikable because you're just always no filter. Always about either
comes out.
Whatever was there, whatever trauma's there, whatever okay.
All right.
Observation of it. Hopefully.
All right, yeah, I'm out here, bitch. I'm making your wish because I'm out here at Forum, bitch. I'm watching that fish, bitch. You know I got bars, bitch. You know that's a tree, bitch. I'm out here, bitch. I'm Big Maxi, and you know I'm the best. That's what you thought, cause I'm out here smoking on the fucking parking lot. God damn it, bitch. You know this ain't no fake, cause I'm out here going viral, all gas, no brakes, bitch.
Hell yeah. No, I'm good. Drop the mic. He's out. He's good. Really? Yeah. How can you tell?
Woo! Cincinnati!
What's the best thing about Cincinnati?
Got the
I
gritty.
don't really think there's anything good about Cincinnati except for the Skyline Chili. It's just Ohio chili, baby.
Do you have Cash App?
I have Venmo.
You should get Cash App. It's a superior service. Cash App's amazing. I love Cash App. You should get Cash App.
I'm gonna download it right now.
Cash App, the best way to pay for legal goods and services in the lot outside of a fish concert.
We're looking at a
But how is Cash App better than Venmo? Because I use Venmo and I have no problem.
I use Venmo, yeah. No.
I have no problems with it. So how's Cash App better? You gotta give me the pitch.
He's not selling.
Yeah, that's it. No. Doesn't have the skills, the sales.
That's right. That's right.
And they're $20 a piece. Come find me any stop of the tour. There's really good bush in some of these. There's a bunch of bush. Do you want any vintage porn?
I'm good. I appreciate. I'm selling pins, so you know.
I appreciate you.
I go online now for my masticatory needs for everything I need to chew.
What's your favorite porn website?
See, he was smart enough to catch that he said masturbation wrong. He said masturbatory. I'm like, oh, that's chewing. Yeah, chewing. He caught himself, so that was nice. I appreciate him because he was actually witty. Or he meant to be.
Favorite category of porn, like my favorite category of food, there's extremely few categories of porn that I don't like. Whatever sexuality it is, whatever fetish it is, I would say just about I like so many different types of porn. For me, variety is the spice of life.
You like DILF domination porn?
Good one. Keep them coming.
Porn of people getting kicked in the nuts and stuff?
I don't know. That might be a little bit much, though. That could be a little hardcore, yeah. Hi, Angela, if you're watching.
I just saw some guy get knocked out for selling fake gas. Yeah, that was pretty wild.
Fake nitrous?
Fake nitrous, yeah. And then, boom, dead down on the ground. The guy bought nitrous and fucking hit a balloon and it didn't get high and he went and he fucking hit the guy. It was crazy.
Feel bad for the guy who got knocked out?
No, he was selling fake gas.
Oh. Sometimes the vibe can go bad.
Yeah, true. For sure. Sometimes it can go bad.
That's the hiss of the nitrous.
I think it's guaranteed that it will go bad. It's guaranteed it will oscillate. It will oscillate. Okay, you go high, you go low, you go high, you go low.
You got to ride those highs and lows, yeah.
God, it reminded me of this TED talk about happiness, about like, look, people with stressful lives, kids, whatever, it's like, yeah, they're like this, right? They have highs and lows, but the highs are higher than like the baseline happiness of the person with the boring life. Me. So it's like, so like you're not as happy. Like you have the lows. Like, why do I want lows?
Yeah, really. Screw them lows.
Violent drug gang that controls the sale of nitrous oxide balloons.
Isn't that Meg in the back? Isn't that Meg that? Or I mean, that's obviously just like a McFarlane nod. But
oh yeah, kind of.
That's Meg in the back. That's Meg. This is American Dad, so
right. So,
but it's just an Easter egg, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost crossover. Just a Meg hat. It's just a hat.
That's right. Yeah.
A violent drug gang controls the sale of nitrous oxide balloons. Even rainbows have shadows.
The Nitrous Mafia. And where do you find them? Just listen for the...
They're calling it hippie crack. Who's calling it hippie crack?
I'm not calling it hippie crack. I mean, I guess I don't know that much about it, but...
Well, there was already a thing called hippie crack. It's called crack.
Yeah.
or rather, actually, no. It's coke. It's coke.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
Money. And then he does another one. The fuck.
How many fish shows have you been to?
Actually, I've been in 3 fish shows because I hate fish.
Hate fish?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
You don't like the music very much?
It's a noodling type thing, It's kind of noodling around and stuff, Trey is
What's he doing?
one note.
I need a fresh balloon. I need a fresh balloon.
A fresh balloon. Hey! Hey! Freshies.
Fish is a 4-musician, 1 director band that started in Vermont in the early 1980s and really kind of grew in scale around 1990 onwards. signed to a major label, made multiple studio recordings, but is more known for their live performances. They encouraged their fans to trade audio tapes of their live shows. They didn't repeat their set list. They improvised. They did different things every night.
So you don't like Fish?
I do not like Fish. They felt like the sons of dentists who had access to nitrous tanks, who then, with the proceeds from nitrous, could buy cocaine. Like, it felt like that crowd. And for my taste, it was gimmicky and it felt noodly. It didn't swing. It didn't rock.
Is he describing the band or the audience?
Conceptually, Fish...
He kind of sounds like both at once.
Yeah.
He's just saying that it's all the same. Like the vibe,
Excluding
the
anyone
the
who's
band
older is like a older, jam band follower, Jefferson Airplane did songs.
The main guy, Trey, seems like a decent guy. There's some ideas that are good, but they keep making bad songs.
You used to kick it with Kurt Cobain, right?
Yeah, I don't want to overstate it, but yeah.
Did he fuck with Fish?
No, I do not believe that Kurt Cobain fucked with Fish. Fish is probably the last band I would have ever talked to Kurt Cobain about.
What about Dave Grohl?
Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I feel like this would have a bigger punch if I knew who that is.
Oh, you don't know Dave Grohl?
No.
Oh, Foo Fighters.
Oh, it's Foo Fighters. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't know their music either. Is Foo Fighters jam band
Satellite, or? They were kind of grungy.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah, kind of more poppy than a lot of grunge bands.
Right.
Yeah, Satellite I think was their big hit.
Satellite.
I'm sure.
I mean Satellites. Because I have heard that.
It was looking for a star to save me, looking for something, looking for a satellite. Yeah, something.
Okay.
I don't even know it that well.
I've likely heard. I have likely heard.
I'm sure you've heard it. If you were listening to music in the early to mid '90s, for sure you've heard.
Well, I wasn't. So.
Oh, okay.
I was 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to play off a joke
enough.
where what was the I don't know what it was, but I'm just referencing this joke where it's like, no, I wasn't there. I was 5.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. All right.
Oh, that sucks, man.
What's it like doing all those balloons? How do you feel?
You tell me. Yeah, off that shit. Off that shit. 05 Live, bro. I'm trying to. I got the gas already. I'm outside everywhere, every show. Look for me, JJ. I'm on the lot and I shut it down. You hear me?
Good gas ain't cheap and cheap gas ain't good. If it's not bigger than your head, it won't put you to bed. We got the best gas on the line. Hear my man out going on.
And if you get that cheap spoon shit out here, you die. You hear me?
Is there a point at which someone has done so many balloons that you're gonna cut them off and be like, no more?
No more. No. Huff till you die. Huff till you die.
Fish out! You've never cut
That
anybody
sounds like
off
an
in the
admission
history
of
of
some
balloons.
kind.
Yeah, a little bit.
That sounds like something that could be prosecuted, like prosecutorial.
I mean, if not just that.
But I guess the follow up is: has anyone died from too much nitrous oxide?
I would think it'd be possible because doesn't it like
yes, or
the
later
thing is
on.
that like it replaces oxygen or something, right?
Yeah, you're killing.
So you're killing your brain.
You're killing your brain. Yeah.
You'd think there would be an overdose point, but
I mean, it's equivalent to this is what like huffing pain and
right.
Or
I know people overdose
spray
with like
paint,
that sort of thing.
Like all that stuff. It's just cutting out the middleman of buying those products. So it's certainly cleaner, but it's the same effect, right? So
yeah, so
it's scary. It's kind of scary that like what but this is an old joke, I guess. The lengths people go to get high, using cough syrup or whatever. It's just get buy alcohol. I don't know, but again, alcohol is it's a drop shoe. It doesn't make you high, but
right, yeah.
Again, but let me tell you a joke from my buddy of mine. So like I went to when I was gonna go to the he did go to the Biden's inauguration. I was gonna do MLK, Molly, LSD, and ketamine.
the trifecta. Molly, LSD and ketamine. Wow, that sounds like a horrible combo. But
Not at the same time, likely, but he does space it out.
Well,
And he knows exactly how long to wait. But he'll also say, "Coke always ruins the party."
Coke always ruins the party, huh? Oh, okay. I'm making a mental note of that.
No, not even Jerry Garcia.
Hey, Andrew. Yeah, it's the baby, right?
Your sticker is the baby inside of the Grateful Dead logo.
Well, aren't we all? Hey, the baby.
Aren't we
I
all
just
the
met you
Grateful
tonight.
Dead logo?
You seem like a pretty good guy when your sticker was put on my shirt.
I
had to buy a couple stickers.
I don't think that the guy that put that sticker on you was the baby.
I'm the designer of these right here.
What led you to design this?
The baby's great. Actually, greatest rapper alive right now.
What's your favorite DaBaby song?
I like his collabs. I don't fucking know right now.
Can you spit 4 of your favorite DaBaby bars real quick?
They all contain the N-word.
So what I did, like, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
I mean,
oh, this is the girl you were talking about. Oh,
yeah.
Why?
counting down to 5 minutes right now. Ready?
What?
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I'd be like, what?
What the fuck?
Ready? Are you fucking
What
ready?
For what?
I know, and I gave you a 5-minute countdown, and I'll fucking show you.
What's happening in 5 minutes?
Too many questions.
Too many questions.
But she's not gone. She's not walking away. She's just, yeah. You really don't want it?
What the hell's going on?
You are missing out.
How many times have you tabbed it?
Over 100.
Do you have a lifetime tab goal?
No. Just keep on tabbing and having fun. Hello. Wow, you're worth 300. That's great. Who are you?
So apparently that's
I don't know.
that's a musician, and he commented on the Channel Vibe video. So that was the top comment.
Wait, what? The guy in the picture there?
Painting. Yeah. Yeah, he's a musician. Fellow jam band guy, I guess.
Jam band guy. Okay. Yeah. Hard to tell who that is.
Is it a friend of yours?
No, but it's an amazing painting. And he's waiting to see your butthole.
He's screaming. It's the face of anticipation as he's waiting to see a butthole.
This is the guy we have to show our anus to. Hey, guy.
Man, you know what? I think their whole their take on forcing people to get vaccinated is bullshit, and that they should have a spine, and they should actually stand up for people's rights. You know what?
Yeah.
That's the message we have to say to fish. Fuck fish.
Okay.
It's the whole fucking scene. Everybody who's out for the money.
I think we're being strong-armed.
But if you dig, they're all ANCAPs. They're all ANCAPs.
Yeah.
It's like if you dig into what their actually political beliefs, either like they don't have them because they don't think about that actually, and they're just as like educated or conscious, like as your standard normie. That's kind of the thing that annoys me the most. That like they kind of act like they got it figured out. They're conscious beings. They're conscious, socially conscious, whatever, aware, and they're actually totally not. And that's kind of annoying because at least normies that like they'll admit that like yeah, I don't read the paper or whatever, and or I don't know about the Senate or whatever. That's boring. Or I just know that Trump's bad or something. You know.
Yeah.
Or wasn't Trump? Isn't or they're listening and they'll go, oh really? No, Democrats bad.
Sure.
I'll have to. Guys.
But I just want to point out quick, isn't that the Palestinian scarf that he has on his neck there too?
It might be something that looks like it. I wouldn't say it is though, because I know what it
has
looks
the tassels. But for a guy who is like, just do whatever you want, man, it's like personal freedom and stuff, and then somehow has also the politics of supporting Palestinian liberation, like Did he just pick his politics out of a grab bag? Or?
Here, no, it's just the look. It's just the look of like.
I mean, that could be it too. Maybe someone gave it to him, or like
Press,
he's like, oh
yeah.
man, that's a
you know
cool
what? If he
scarf.
was asked, he would probably give some run-on sentence answer that made no sense. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I'm talking about. Like if you did ask him, he wouldn't know. Like, oh, really? That Palestinian? I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Or he does have an explanation, and it'll make no sense.
Right.
Or it'll take an hour, and then you'll have to ask a follow-up question, and then he'll make another hour-long answer.
He'll forgot halfway through.
To clear, I'll interrupt someone doing that to ask a clarifying question, and they'll just keep going, as if like they didn't hear me, they didn't understand what I asked, and that's where I check out.
But man, this guy.
Have you found the correct? Do you like the setup now?
Yeah. You talking about like the restream setup, or?
No. You're shuffling the frames.
Yeah, I just there's a little more balance this way. The two commentators on the top and
video on the bottom.
Yeah. But
we were too small before.
Psychedelic movement should think higher.
This would have never flown.
Think higher, man.
They should think higher than all of this shit.
Yeah.
Don't get vaccinated.
Hello? Wake up. Have you been in Berkeley? Have you been in Berkeley?
Yeah.
You go walk around Berkeley and talk to people. They'll tell you all about it. It's about waking up.
What's it? What's it? What's it? And he'll give an answer like, "Man, I don't have to tell you what it is, man. You don't have to know. You have to ask. You have to go to Berkeley." Like I did.
I just love it. I love her face. They're like, whoa. Like he's really spitting here.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew,
go to Berkeley and they'll tell you what it's about, man. It's like, wow.
And Andrew says, "Yeah, I've been there," but he didn't
he's
hear
like,
him.
Yeah, but go there and they'll tell you.
Yeah, but he didn't hear him. He didn't say. It didn't matter if he said yes or no, or like, I live in Berkeley, and he'll still say, "Oh, you go back there. When you get back there, you ask, man."
Right.
It.
Yeah.
They get it at Berkeley. Now, is he talking about like Freedom Park, or what's he talking about?
Just I guess anyone in Berkeley will do. Just stop a postman on their.
I suggest East Coast. You go to Ithaca. Then you'll know what it is, man.
You know what it's all about.
You'll learn it if you go to Ithaca.
Because they're all about it.
Which is awesome.
When did things change, dude?
I think it changed with the newer generation. Like, you can't teach old school, like that you can only get strains of it, and then the media gets into it, and the media does things, and young people, they're looking for a certain message, and so...
Not the old school message.
The power's within you,
No, new school, man.
Yeah.
Andrew missed a good opportunity there. He missed an opportunity there, mostly because the other guy was, again, doing his run-on sentence.
Rambling on, yeah.
But the follow-up would be, what message does the old school contain?
Right.
Or like, what message do you mean that the young people who can't be taught? And that's the thing. But there's also the Tina way of like, no alternative. It's like, this is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can't teach old school. Like, what do you mean you can't teach it? What do you have that can't be shared? Because you have to do enough drugs or something? Like what? Or they don't appreciate fish.
Who knows?
Because what are you talking about? And it's not just, but again, if they're high, whatever, it's just they're not supposed to make sense. But that's kind of what's funny about it, I guess. But it's not just in the context of the fest. Like, you don't make sense there in the in the orgy and the Saturnalia festival where everything, topsy-turvy day. But they're like this every day. They're like this in every context. In a political meeting, with friends, and then fights are easily broken out, and then they get hurt, and then and then life is messed up, and they're like, oh, everyone sucks. It's yeah. Oh. And I wouldn't care if if they just stay the fuck away from anything left wing. But they'll always show up to marches or whatever because they're so conscious. They'll show up to stuff or be at community events, and they'll be like sorta involved.
Yeah,
but just badly.
It can score them some social credit points,
or drugs, or they're in it
or drugs too. Yeah,
join the anarchist commune.
Right.
For the drugs, and then they won't do any of the dishes, and then the commune doesn't work. Like these are the people that mess up the anarchist collectives.
Yeah.
I hear it from every kind of story of like, yeah, we had an anarchist collective. I was in one. I'm totally rad. But then there were these fucking potheads that just wouldn't do any of the chores. We tried everything, every kind of rotation or whatever, and they still didn't do shit. They just wanted to be, it was crazy. And I imagine, it's these people.
Yeah, just don't harsh their mellow, man. Just let them.
I'm just doing what I want. Why do you care? I'm not hurting you. And they're like, and they talk like ANCAPs. NAP. All they're missing is saying NAP because they don't have, they didn't actually read a book about it. They just
know it's a high concept that they can just ace card,
ace in the hole.
Yeah,
I'm not hurting you, man. Leave me alone.
No, yeah, man. Just let me do my thing. I don't get down on you. Just let me be.
I feel bad for anybody who thinks that it's part of a ploy to get us vaccinated. Yeah. It is a shame to weave just 4 nerdy aging millionaires into your conspiracy theory. I'll say that.
I think it's a government-run operation to sort of create a sort of corral for certain levels of consciousness, basically. I'm not sure if it's positive or negative, but I think
I'm not sure if it's good or bad, but it's something, man. It's something. Something's up.
Do your research, man.
Look more into it. Open mind.
That's right.
And you'll get something. Yeah. Oh man. No, I do have to retract. I don't think there's any evangelical Christianity with this group, with this subculture.
I've met those people,
but maybe it's
evangelical,
or it's
there. Christian.
Yeah, or it's buried, where it's like they're trying desperately to not be white by taking on Eastern religion stuff. But but they can't. They have not unlearned or let go of any of the toxic Christianity stuff. They'll badmouth like, "Oh, those Christians are so suck. They harsh my mellow," But it's just the same in a different code. It's something to study
for sure. Yeah, I mean, and basically it's just putting on a different set of clothing and pretending that everything is different.
Yeah, but you live your life exactly the way they do, except you don't have. But again, some of them do have professional jobs. They're just like not.
Right.
They're ashamed of them. That's the difference.
Yeah.
They make money. They're capitalists, but they're just not proud about it.
Mm-hmm.
But they act like they're virtuous, and that's what matters. That's what makes them good people, like Obama.
That's right.
Uh-huh. Special magical thing, so there's a lot of magic here, and there's just a lot of sort of stasis as well. So it's like a consciousness vector. It's a consciousness program, So I've come to believe that they're sort of like hyper intelligent, sort of interdimensional forces coordinating events on this plane of existence, but it's still spinning, for as a community.
Everyone here seems awesome.
As a community,
it is.
yeah.
It's very very loving. People are really here for the music, and I think that given the music industry
and then you got
things that
guy.
are going on, if you look at it from the perspective of there are higher dimensions and there are other planes of existence. They might be off planet, they might be in planet, or they might be on other planes. But I think that's being coordinated by forces that have higher.
Yeah, they're doing it when they're doing the cats.
Coordinate, and they're probably vying with each other for control. And I think that that's what I meant by government program. And they're coordinating government as well through the obvious channels.
He didn't say government program. He said consciousness vector.
Yeah.
A type of program, but he didn't say government before. That's how fucked up the explaining and I'm making good points. Now, of course, maybe after the fact they're like, oh man, that was embarrassing. I didn't know what I was talking about. or
guessing he
but
didn't
instead of
remember being
saying
interviewed.
I don't know what I'm talking about, or I don't know enough, or like I'll just give a really short answer, I'm going to keep going and say absolutely nothing of value and forget that I didn't actually preface. I went out of order. I didn't say I was talking about the government. But now that's what I meant by government program.
As long as you keep grasping those, high concepts that you can just weave into
It's
one
bullshit.
big mishmash, then you can just
I'll
keep
give you an
bobbing and weaving.
I got an architecture school story for you.
All right.
A common practice of bullshitting your way for your final, because was to kind of TED talk it, where you just we read the theory and there's concepts in the lectures and the right readings were assigned and other things, and we just repeat those in the context of talking about our own project, and it's complete bullshit. The jury knows it's bullshit, and they do call them out, sort of. They're like, you're not telling us anything about your project. Or they ask, or they're nice and they just ask questions. Can you talk about your project? Talk about this. Actually, this is where it is bullshitty, where like sometimes it is a dance where the jury plays along. But then, because the point of the jury is to benefit the student.
Okay.
So it isn't actually to criticize and just say what you did wrong and whatever. That's how it used to be, but it's more like we want to give constructive criticism.
Feedback, sure.
So we just want to ask the student questions so we know more, but then the student will bullshit so nothing can happen, no conversation happens. And that's kind of like, yeah, what's going on here too.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
Just saying buzzwords, like things I read in an
Right.
article, because I read one.
Or things that someone brought up at a...
No, actually Facebook.
or
I mean, it's all from Facebook posts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they're all on
too.
social media too. And that's actually how they get their news and information, in theory. It's all memes and posts and whatever.
Yeah, new age inspirational quotes and stuff. And,
Not actual books.
No.
Never seen a new age
talking to people,
library.
saying what's up.
That's what I'm doing. We're doing the same thing.
So what have you learned today?
It just sounds like I have a better voice for broadcast. But you can have it too. I went to broadcast journalism school and nothing really works as well as these balloons, I guarantee you.
Really?
That's a man in the moment.
You want to try it?
Too scared.
Too scared.
You're watching Channel 5 News.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
He could have done that without the balloon. That's what's funny about it to me, is that anyone can do that without the balloon, but the fact that he feels like I have to get the balloon gives me a little voice.
It gives me my special powers to get in that low register.
Yeah. You get right. It gives me special abilities I can only have with the gas.
That's right.
Because of the island boys. The island boys.
I also tap into like.
Well, that's a guy just partying.
A huge feeling of.
He didn't try to be more. That's it's funny and it's cool with that guy, because he's not trying to be more than just a guy who's partying. He's just partying, and that's fine. That's fine.
Sure.
Not complaining about people having fun, like the guys that were head bobbing, like they got it's the ones that are probably just exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ones that are like, oh, a guy with a microphone. I have things I could say.
Not to be dark or dismal, but like insignificance. Like I'm here and I'm an expert at fish and I've seen 230 whatever shows and I've like spent all this money, seen them all over the place for so many years. So like I'm tapped in and it means so much to me, but in the grand schemes, it's not really that important.
True wisdom. I wonder how much he has spent.
That would be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
And what he does to finance.
I could probably estimate what I've spent on video games over the years. I mean, it's an average $40, $50 a year, I guess. Not counting the graphics card I'm using, so I guess that would add. So some years it's $200.
Sure.
But yeah. Or 60 actually. I spend about $60 twice a year on Steam stuff. So I guess that's the price.
Yeah,
but I
that
think of
makes
it
sense.
like I'm spending $10 for something that's going to give me 20 hours at least of entertainment.
Oh, absolutely.
Even when it's just I just finished another Metroidvania that I got on Steam, and so I've only played 2 kind of Metroidvania style modern games made by indie developers, and in both of them, it ends with you killing God. I don't know if this means anything, but they're entirely different contexts. Because in the first one, there's time travel involved, and it's basically like the Rick and Morty joke with the time guys. They're like, "Don't fuck with time." It's kind of like that. Like you're fucking with time, and then God comes down and says, like, "You're fucking with time, and you fucked up time." And you kill him, and then you become God. You become the time God, and so on, and fix things. Because God doesn't want to fix it. It's like, I'm just going to start over and destroy everything. So, and on the other one, it's more like the world is a theocracy, and there's this space worm that's God. And at the end of the game, you kill him. And it's pretty random that the space worm is actually a ship with a bird in it. It's so random.
Bird.
I just finished it today. The game is Iconoclast.
Interesting.
And
I did not realize.
But you also kill God at the end. So, but it's more of like the thing that's called God, but it's theocracy. It's just dogma. So it's a theme of that, but it's also like the pirates that like are in opposition to the theocracy also have their own belief system and religion, which is in the narrative not actually better. It's different, but it's pointed out that it's not actually superior. Because like there's this moment where like, so the theocracy assigns jobs. It's very authoritarian.
Okay.
If you don't do the job you're assigned, you're a sinner and you get killed. And when asked like, well, how do you assign jobs in your pirate town that's underwater, and it's and they're like they have a fertility cult, but and they're like, well, we just do, because they basically give the anarchist answer. There's work to do, and we basically just do it based on what we can do, and the other person goes like, well, I don't see that much difference between those two things. You have to do work, and you have to do the job that's best, and we're assigned jobs based on what we do or can do. So, what's the difference?
Yeah, in the end, you're
and I really like that because not that I'm out for like assigning jobs, but as far as like planned economics, where people are given a job based on their talents, would be less choice and freedom in the libertine sense, but people would actually get the work they want to do. But it's really inefficient to have to find the thing that you're when you already know what you're good at, but you have to find the job that fits you. When really there could be an agency that like, these are the jobs and we can find. But again, these are things that even like corporate sector stuff point out as like, these are problems. Like, oh, we have all these jobs to fill and we just can't find the talent. It's like, but by talent they mean like what people with the right degrees. No, they actually mean like the type of disposition, personality, all these things they can't actually identify. Or if they attempt to identify it on a job description, or they can't because that would be discriminatory. Like, actually, we only want tall people, or we only want people with X amount of charisma. But they'll put like sales, wants to do sales or something.
Sure.
I don't know.
Gotta find safer words, yeah.
But it's obviously, it frustrates us to no end. Because I'm just doing nothing but interviews, and I don't know what they want. And I don't know, like, so I don't know what they were really looking for. So it's like, I can just say what I can do and what I like doing, and hope that's the right thing. But I'd rather they tell me what they're looking for, because I guess at the end of the day, they don't know. But it's like they'll know it when they see it, and they have to go through 30 people and waste 30 man hours, basically, because this is time I could be using doing my actual job. And unlike other civil service, because I'm temporary, I don't get paid to do interviews in other departments.
Oh.
I can easily take that time off, but I'm not paid for it. But if I was permanent, I would be. Another injustice for the precariat.
Wow. That sucks.
Thank you.
How is that even justified? Like, let's just screw over the people.
Because I'm not
power.
Because I'm not salaried. When I'm a
Okay.
temporary office assistant, so I'm interviewing for all these permanent office assistant jobs, and I have another three. I have another 3 coming this week, and that will make put it up to above 10 that I've done. And I've gotten 2 rejection letters already, but there's the 2 others I actually want to do said they would take longer. So that is something to look forward to, but I'm not holding my breath either. I'll be pleasantly surprised. Similar to the job I have now, I was very surprised that I got it, but it was the first time I had been interviewed in forever. So, but the difference was I had a personal reference.
Oh, okay.
So, but that makes
That's
a lot of difference. But it's interesting that they're now being clearer. They're being clearer in asking for your references, put your last few supervisors.
Sure.
So no personals, so at least they're being clear now about that.
That's
Because I was
good.
wasting time putting personal references of people that could vouch for me that I'm a good worker or whatever, or I have a work ethic, but they just want supervisors because that's the only person they can trust. Anyway, part of me doesn't want to work in civil service, but then my mom gives me that it's not Jewish guilt, but it's I just want you to have a stable life, Dan.
Yeah,
and I'm but then I get into but the moments like that get me in a ranty mood where I rant about there's going to be a lack of stability in the world and in our area. So what stability could I ever achieve in my lifetime? We have climate crisis looking down on us, bearing down on us, and
at the same time, you never know.
And normies do not understand that at all. Normies just, what am I going to do tomorrow for rent?
Right.
And they know that rent's bad.
Stable long term.
Yeah, but everyone is sort of subconsciously aware, or they're on the cusp of rent is unfair.
Yeah.
There was this tweet where it's just, I think it was in some non-leftist group, and it was the transit one, and it was just about a new urbanist, and it was rent is unfair. Isn't it crazy? About cars being a tax.
Mm-hmm.
It's being a poor tax because you have to have a car, so it's like a tax. You have to pay this money to live, and I comment, it's called rent. Everything is rent. Get it through your head. I'm being friendly. It's rent. All of it's rent. Taxes are a form of kind of rent, but at least with taxes, it's meant to be spent on everyone.
Right.
Rent
you definitely
is
get something
always
back for your taxes.
going to go up the pyramid.
Yeah.
And that's why I get frustrated. So back to Parenti, about what's also in the 80s, you had a lot of the government is actually worthless. So maybe, or maybe a deviation between the law enforcement side and the civil service side. The civil service is worthless, but at the same time, cops weren't really effective either. Think Home Alone, but or rather that it's not that they're as ineffective as much as the main characters do not utilize the government. The government is not in their toolbox, either because of privilege. They've never had to ask for help from the government.
Right.
Or earlier in the movie, the government is shown to be inept or not helpful. There's the bureaucrat behind the desk going you have a problem? Kind of thing. It's amazing how often it occurs in these movies, but it's just a short scene, but it's there. It's it's always there. Be interesting to have I suppose in the new millennium we've had more of in Joker, you have that moment of the state worker is hey, I'm in a shitty position too.
But Speaking of landlords, though, have you seen the videos coming out on landlord TikTok recently?
Yeah, it's increasing, and it's going, and the Mao jokes are just can flow out.
Absolutely.
Referencing Maoism rather, but
right.
But obviously Mao was not the first. But it's just that landlords were like the main problem with China, because you didn't have a big government centralized state in China at the time, but you had your local landlord. And so, and that can be the case in many of the red states, where you have this devolution of government because small governments drowned in a bathtub, but you have landlords. And and it's hopefully inoculates a lot of people from ANCAP ideas. This is why we do not need to debate ANCAPs. We simply need to trust that people are inoculated enough to not go like down that path. It's only these type of tech bros that are going that way. Anyone who actually pays rent in any way understands. It's that these guys have never had to pay rent in their lives. Or if they did, no, they likely weren't the ones paying it. Parents were paying it or something. They never had to actually pay rent. That's just an assumption of mine. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think it's a bad assumption. And just thinking about
They don't seem to understand the unethical nature of charging rent for anything more than a room. The only ethical rent is for a room. I want to make that clear. That's my position. Only rent for a room. Because why? Because it's the truly temporary lodging.
Oh,
it's meant to be temporary. No, not just a hotel room. It could be for a month or a year, but it's small. It's like a small is beautiful approach that it's really not going to be exploited because it's always going to be a homeowner renting
I see what you're saying.
a room in their house. It's never going to be a what do you call it? Absentee landlord or whatever. It's always going to be like, and it's not the whole house. It's always the room, or maybe a basement or a basement apartment. But the point of the room is that like it's an answer to the argument that ANCAPs or any kind of libertarian puts out of like people like being able to move around from place to place. They don't want to be tied down with a mortgage or home loan, the burdens of being in a community that can't just is nomadic or tied to a subculture like fish. Because that's not material, it's not, it doesn't actually give you any rooting. It's funny. It's they say it's for grounding, but it's not really. It's actually for being ungrounded.
The opposite. Yeah.
That's what's frustrating. They also talk of opposites. It's like, oh, I'm here to actually be normal. Like, no, you're supposed to do this to be abnormal and get that out of your system.
Right.
And then
go back to your 9 to 5.
Yeah. But I guess some of them probably do that, but they're like that in their normal lives too. That's what's annoying to me. Because I nerd out, in certain contexts, but then most of the time I'm like, I'm not about it all. What was I? Yeah. Was there another video, or did you want to? We've gone 2 hours now, so.
Yeah, it's up to you. If you want to do more, we could definitely do.
I can go a little longer, but I do have job applications to send.
Sure. We can do just one little short one. We can do this one called Moral Envy, Why Liberals Hate the Left.
Okay.
That one looked pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. That actually, that's a fun thesis there. Yeah, liberals don't like the left because we're like actually moral than them and they can't stand that.
Right, yeah.
We're not hypocrites. They are. When the right calls them hypocrites, they don't know what to do because they're right. And we call them hypocrites too, so they get it from both sides. So they have to hate both sides.
Right.
Rather than reassess because it's in their material interest to be where they are and have the positions they are. This is where it isn't just virtue ethics or idealism. It's like, no. It's as professional class or managerial or coordinator class, they need to be they have to have the ideology they have, which is why it's sort of needed to deprofessionalize in a way.
Yeah,
but
well, I mean, those are the people that believe strongest in the ideal of a meritocracy. The idea that, you know.
But I've covered this in some of my episodes about class. That so I use the word coordinator. So like the point of the biggest charge against, like, you know, Soviet economics is that they did get rid of the capitalist class, but you still had a coordinator class. So to be a social libertarian or libertarian socialist is like to want to merge worker and coordinator together and have balanced job complexes, and that we're both things. Either because of automation, we can just be coordinating the automation. And so it's almost about abolishing both the capitalist and worker class, and we're all coordinators of some type.
Yeah.
That's the
kind
dream.
of the worker owner sort of model you're talking about. Like
that does the same thing as well. Yeah, that does that too. That merges the two.
Right.
So that's definitely where we want to be, because past economics didn't have the ability to do that. They had to have coordinators of some type. So you had to have that kind of hierarchy, even though it was infinitely more democratic, because you did have one less class. You know, it's kind of like how atheism is the same. You know, look, I'm just like a Christian. I just believe in one God less.
Right.
You know,
and then each person,
you know, you're an atheist compared to a pagan. You believe in a lot less gods. So classlessness is kind of like, anyway.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. All right. Let's cue it up here.
Liberals will spend more of their energy and time attacking leftists than they do challenging the right. One theory used to explain this is David Graeber's theory of moral envy, where someone is upset with another person for enacting their own stated values more directly or effectively than themselves. But before I get into that, let's talk about the central narrative of centrist liberals and how that plays into their political self-image. The standard narrative of centrist liberals is that they're very smart good guys that fight for equality and justice, but do so very pragmatically.
I think they would say they attack the right, though. They attack the right much better than we do, because it's all they do.
They would. Yeah, they would say that.
I know. I'm just saying it's what they'd say.
For marginal changes. They stand as the only challenge to the very evil and unsmart bad guys who are an increasingly extreme right wing who threaten the foundations of democracy itself. Central to this narrative is the belief that centrist liberals hold about themselves that they are both fundamentally good and very smart. Implied within this belief is that anyone who disagrees with them is either not smart or bad, and that can be seen clearly in their rhetorical attacks against the left.
Binary morality.
For example,
for sure.
Or like, the left are right about some things, like capitalism goes too far, but we can fix that. We can reform that. We can have social democracy.
Sure, just gotta get the right people in the right places, and bing bang boom.
Do social democracy. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
At most, but even that's
right.
Too far.
Yeah.
People on the left criticize Obama for his use of drone strikes or his spying on journalists. Liberals attack the left by saying that leftists are either naive for thinking that civilization could exist without drone strikes and mass surveillance, or that leftists are just as bad as the right wing because criticizing Obama might hurt his electoral chances. And here we see the
important point. It goes even worse than that, where it's almost, it would be gaslighting if you weren't like set in your politics or politically active, where they actually tell you, no, because you're criticizing the Dems, you're actually right wing, because there's you're either me. Well, especially when they say they're leftists, so it's like you're not actually leftist. You're not more left than me, because nothing could be more left than what I am. You are right wing because you are anti-American, which is how I classify Trumpers, because they actually use that language so much that they internalize that, and it's like, you're for China. It all gets really gobbled together, especially when it's like, you don't want to go to war with China, or you don't defend Taiwan. It's like you must, because they all say, like, because they will Trump, he's in bed with China. He's both hard on China, but it's actually no, they actually didn't like Trump because, in that context, because he was actually pro-China because he's in bed or whatever, or a rich guy, or if Russia, when it comes to Russia, So we play these gymnastics, mental gymnastics games all throughout the Obama years and Trump years with Russiagate, where Russiagate is a left conspiracy, actually. It's well, I'll put it this way: speaking as a green, when how did the Dems, what attack for Jill, aimed at Jill Stein, seemed to be the most effective in disrupting our outreach online? It was picturing Stein at an RT event at the same time as Putin for a minute, and saying oh, it's actually Jill Stein is the Russian agent. Do you remember that? Was that a meme you were exposed to at all?
Yeah.
It was pretty. Maybe it was just a seem, a feeling, but it was very effective. There was maybe because it was just I was seeing more of that than I was memes that were pro Green Party or pro Jill Stein or talking about Jill Stein in a way that was constructive. It was we had to do damage control against trolls, going on and on, repeating. So maybe it was all Dem sock puppets at the end of the day, but it's good agitprop to flood. We couldn't do any social media outreach because it was just any thread was inundated with this narrative that Jill Stein is actually the real Russiagator, or the not Russiagator, but I mean the real Russiagate controversy or conspiracy is that Jill Stein is a Russian agent to sabotage the Clinton campaign for Trump, and we're agents of the right. So that's what I mean by leftists are actually on the right, because we help the right by being who we are, rather than actually accepting our help, or because we have to help them as slaves.
Right.
It's
I feel
their binary reality at work.
Right. I feel like that argument of you're a Russian agent or you're an FBI asset or whatever it is.
You're with us or you're against us.
Right. Well, it seems to be
and everyone, and if you're against us is a horde. It's the horde.
Right. Yeah, the swarthy masses again.
We're in the fort defending democracy, and everyone else is on the outside.
But it seems like it's like the left or liberal sides do your own research. It's just when you've got nothing else, no other way to criticize the person you're talking about, you just go to that. Well, you must be an asset of some shadowy, nefarious,
it's easy,
unfalsifiable organization.
It's easy to fall. It was just implication. It was always implication. Same with Jill Stein. The other lie was Jill Stein is an anti-vaxxer, and that was also by implication, not any quote or position or paper. It was just this. She wanted a health study for 5G, not 5G, but 5G around kids, and it was specific to schools, and it was just a precautionary principle because she's a scientist.
Sure. Yeah.
Like an actual doctor.
That seems pretty innocuous to me.
And it was, it wasn't even we have to ban this or this is evil. It was just we're putting a lot of radiation around us, and similar to past industrial processes that gave a lot of people cancer. Maybe we should do that, roll these things out slower before we know if they're giving us cancer or not. Cell phone radiation, whatever, But this makes you a kook, or But anyway, it's just whatever.
Oh, I remember them going to town with that one. Yeah. Ugh.
And the worst of it, and this will probably come up later in the video, maybe, I don't know, is with 2020 that the Dems didn't even have to do any attack campaign against Hawkins.
Right.
The left did it for them by just saying we're going to ignore the Greens entirely.
Right.
Because we got to beat fascism.
Yeah.
And maybe and lie to ourselves that we'll maybe get leverage with the Biden, Biden bill or something. But I could tell you 2 years ago that was a delusion. There's delusion in the Obama years, and it's delusion now.
Yeah, all those campaign promises that Biden has stuck to. It's an ever-shrinking list of stuff that he's even talking about trying to.
There was never a list. I don't know. Like, even during the campaign, he was saying it wasn't.
Yeah, it was pretty thin. It was a pretty thin list.
It wasn't even a thin thing. It was totally like you see the cognitive dissonance at work amongst the Bernie base, and it just really sucks. How they couldn't be. I don't know either. Even now, they're still lost because you have enough of them that are too cowardly to leave the Dems. And too cowardly to, they're just too cowardly to leave, even knowing full well that they're just going to spend the rest of their lives banging their head against the wall, but they're going to get crumbs sometimes,
sure,
or something. I don't know what that. But crumbs just means the Democrats in the White House. It's just that's it. That's all it means. It doesn't even mean we get anything because the Build Back Better, we didn't even get anything.
No, we got half a check.
or yeah, because or rather, it's no. Sorry, what we get is we get the infrastructure bill Trump administration would have passed, but instead of Trump passing it, it's the Dems passing it.
It's the Dems, yeah.
But there was no difference between the bills. I don't know if Trump did the infrastructure bill, would it be any different? And then it just becomes everything's unfalsifiable, really.
Right.
And that's the flaw of a lot of political arguments is that it's not very scientific. It's hard to be scientific with testing and results. But if you do the same thing every election cycle and you're still doing the same thing after 3 election cycles, something is wrong. I think if you've had enough tests.
Yeah. Time to try a different strategy.
Yeah. And everything's kind of different for us, cycle to cycle. I would say that things do change for us, but mostly sometimes for the last 2 cycles, it's been for the worse. But it's not because we're doing anything totally different. We do change what we're doing. We change candidates, of course, but I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to know. But actually, we have been changing over time, though. We're becoming more eco-socialist. So if anything, with 2020, we did do something amazingly different. We did do something different from previous Green campaigns. We were outwardly socialist. So I could say we don't do the same thing every cycle. But you could make the argument it was a complete failure and we should never be outwardly socialist again based on our results. But we point out that because it just goes to show that the rest of the left are not socialist at all. That they don't give a fuck about socialism. They give a fuck about upholding liberal values or something, or capitalism even. Not even in an anti-accelerationist sense. Like, in a way, we do want some we want disruption of capitalism, and we should care how we get disruption. A strike versus what January 6th was. That's not disruption. Sure. That was disruption for a day. Okay, let's keep going.
Yep. All right.
Sorry, that was a really long rant.
No problem.
Centrist liberals, when challenged with the obvious evidence that their favored candidates are doing something fundamentally evil, they use their self-appointed smartness to claim that all the bad things liberals do is just evidence of how smart they are. This challenge to political action is treated as a threat to their identity as a whole, and as such is dismissed with extreme vitriol.
It's wrapped in the language of practicality.
Yeah.
What makes them smart is that they're being practical. That's the word that's always
pragmatic.
used. They're being pragmatic.
Here and there, yeah.
It would be unpragmatic to do something else.
Yeah, try anything big. Yeah.
The reaction is taken as less personal, as their identity as being good isn't really challenged. Centrist liberals don't care if the right wing calls for evil policies that are obviously harmful, because such rhetoric serves to bolster the centrist belief in their own goodness. Liberals view themselves as being the quote good cop in a good cop, bad cop situation. And much like the good cop, whenever you point out that the system of policing is inherently racist, they respond with the same outrage as the bad cop. In fact, The bad cop might even be willing to be more honest about their inherent oppression in the system as a whole, as they might claim that such oppression is a good thing. The good cop, however, is pressured not only to defend the system, but also their individual role in it. This is essentially the relationship that liberals have with capitalism. Liberals view themselves as the saviors of the working class under capitalism, offering rent controls, minimum wages, and subsidized healthcare, while still leaving in place landlords, managers, and for-profit hospitals. Any critique of the inherent injustice of the existence of landlords, managers, and for-profit healthcare strips liberals of their identity as the savior of the working class and turns them into just another bad guy.
Yep.
This is where David Graeber's ideas on moral envy comes into play. In his book, BS
That's why
Jobs,
unions don't
Graeber-
back single payer.
Really, do they not tend to back single payer?
Look into it. I suggest you look
I
into
will,
it.
because that doesn't make any sense at all. That
It's
would be
not
an obvious good
publicized.
for their people.
It's not publicized enough because too much of our memes is about being pro-union and the good that unions do in your regular workplace, including negotiating healthcare. But if we had single payer, that would be one of the things that unions wouldn't have to do anymore.
That would take away their usefulness a little bit. I see what you're saying.
And what little power they feel they have.
Right.
So that's the case in New York. When we had hearings for our single payer system, along with the HMOs and the usual gang of capitalist suspects, the unions joined them in opposing any single payer system on the grounds that they work hard to get good health care coverage for their members. And this work would be undone if we had a single payer. That they would get the same, and that it would be a downgrade. So it was the same right-wing rhetoric that their membership would get a downgrade in healthcare coverage if it was equalized or, leveled. Or they would use that rhetoric, that it would be lesser, when of course it would just be about raising everybody up to their level. Because really, as a temporary state employee, I'm actually told, like when I mentioned I'm on Medicare, like, yeah, actually don't sign up for the healthcare plan. It wouldn't actually be better. But you do get the eye and dental, which isn't full coverage, but it's like half price. So it's a plus. And so that's basically, I'm fine with Medicaid. Like, it's fine. I like it. I mean, I'm 30.
Medicaid's
I'm
pretty good,
33,
yeah.
but I'm 33, but it's good. It's working for me. I'm able to get, the healthcare I need. I just don't get it's not, eye and, well, actually, no, a little bit of eye is included in that. I get a basic one pair, of glasses, but no dental. Dental isn't. I mean, I guess there is Medicaid dental, but it's only at like these hospital clinics kind of thing.
Sure.
And it's really, really, really basic, just basic cleaning, I guess, but which is kind of all I need. But I did get a filling last month. Yeah.
I'm due for a few in about a month here too. Yeah.
And then there's my front teeth, but otherwise it's like $400 a year.
Oh, $400 a year. That's not too bad. No. But getting back to your issue about the unions opposing medical, I mean that makes me wonder if
we have blind spots on the left. We have blind spots about like that the things are sectionalized. That's not all one movement with one one platform, because as soon as you try to get these try to get a unified platform, or like say a party, a third Labor Party or something, people will actually realize that there's actually all of these different competing interests at play that are not just working class values or whatever. That there is no Bernie could unite people, but he's a personality. He's a person. That's not a movement or an organization, or
not by himself. No.
And that's why it completely went into like 20 different directions with between our revolution and Dem sheepdogging groups and all the people that are still in the Democratic Party and will never leave, continuously hitting those to the left or cock blocking them from from outreach, because we can do our outreach, or at least it feels like what good am I doing outreach when there's DSA around basically saying the exact same thing I am,
right?
But they're doing it, but they endorsed someone actually on council because they were able to run or piggyback onto certain campaigns. Because when they say they got 30 victories last election, a lot of them were endorsed candidates. They weren't, or they were DSA members, I guess, but how many of them are just Dems they endorsed? But
yeah,
I guess maybe they've grown enough that everyone they are endorsing is like a DSA member, but that doesn't mean they're really leftists.
Oh, for sure.
Did I rant about how a DSA beat a Green in the Minneapolis Council race?
Yeah, you did. Cam Gordon.
Yeah, I did. So so I'll shut up.
Used to represent me when I lived in Minneapolis. So yeah. But what I wanted to say about the unions though is in a broader sense, what would then happen if we were to try to get beyond capitalism? Are we going to have unions standing in the way of that? Because without capitalism, there are no unions. If we get anything beyond capitalism, there goes the entire reason for a union to exist.
As long as they're business unions, and the current movement, the labor drives, they're still business unions. Unless the unionization, it's more serendipity when it seems to lead to a workers taking control. Like when it's a unionization of a coffee shop, and then the owner basically gives up and says, "Fine, I'll just sell it to you," or something like that, which is a story, but it just seems it's such a special case where it's like the owner is actually really progressive, and he's like, well, rather than fight or recognize this union, I'll recognize, but like it's going to be unsustainable this way. I'm just going to put it up for sale, and then allow the union to the newly unionized group to buy it under a mortgage and loan and whatever.
In that case, would
it has to be a militant union like the IWW, because like the IWW,
I was gonna bring that up too. Yeah,
does unionize the small workplaces, but not a scale of anything. But there is the underlying strategy of like, no, this is about like building a CNT type of thing where we unionize a majority of a city, and then the city government is the unions. But that's still a coordinator. Like unions are still, and this is where the Americana individualism is. Yeah. It's both like normie Americana, where working class, blue collar, is anti-coordinator. The yeoman farmer is the worker and the coordinator together. Sure. A lot of Americans already are both classes, but both classes are under capitalists. So unless that union is really about combining working and coordinating tasks and eliminating capitalists from the equation, that they're managing the capital. But how do you do that unless you're stealing it or acquiring it through the state? So through taxation, like 100% taxation. But that has to be the platform, and that's not the Social Democrat or DSA platform, unless it's the MLs in that organization. But they're not going to do any of that in the Democratic Party. That's what really like.
I mean, that Democratic Party barely even supports unions in the first place. So yeah, they're not going to do anything like that.
So being the left wing, it's like we can get I don't know what the strategy is there. Unless it's you just the left. I don't know. You're not going to take government because you're Democrats. You're still being elected as Democrats, so you're not replacing the government with an opposition government or something, or you're not taking the government over, like flipping the parties. That's what a political revolution really is. So Bernie was lying about that, really, saying like, well, there's a political revolution. Now, if he was still an independent, that case could be made. But the second time, he ran as a Dem. So it absolutely was like that. And that's why he did, I believe he did worse that way, because, only because of all the advisors and stuff basically blunting everything that made it woke, Bernie based. But then you had all the leftists like Vosh, or pseudo leftists, that sing the praises. Yeah, because that's what we had.
Because that's
Even
what
though
we
you had something better, but everyone chose to ignore.
For sure. For sure.
So we're about halfway through.
Yeah. Although my wife just texted me on a completely different subject. It appears as though Bob Saget has died. He was just found dead today. So on a completely unrelated note, but
He had cancer, didn't he? He was fighting for his life.
I'm not sure that they're not listing a cause of death yet,
but he did retire
65.
from Jeopardy because he had health woes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's why he had to be
Interesting
replaced.
to know. But that's sad though. He was.
Oh wait, Bob Saget. Sorry, Bob Saget. You said.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, not Jeopardy. Sorry, Bob Saget. Okay, yeah. So, I'm not sure what he's been up to the last 10, 15 years, but I know he was doing regular stand-up, and
yeah, he's been doing stand-up, and
he, that's pretty much just living the life.
Yeah. So he was found unresponsive in his hotel room. They don't see any evidence of foul play or drug use or anything, so they don't know anything yet.
How old? What's his age?
That's sad. 65.
65.
So, yeah.
Oof.
Sad.
Mm.
So yeah. So apparently he had a podcast recently.
Do you know him best from? He has his own podcast, of course.
I mean, all the old celebrities have podcasts at this point.
Pretty much. So, well, I mean, you need something to do between acting gigs, when you're an actor.
Yeah, yeah.
But
well, you can get
you have a lot of extra
sponsors
time
just
so
by your name, and
you got to do media stuff. So, did you know him by something else besides Full House, or was it just Full House?
I mean, I was aware he was the voice of How I Met Your Mother, but I was never into that show. So yeah, I primarily know him from Full House, and then he
went more behind the scenes
stand-up
as time
career.
went on.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, oh well, sad news. Just thought I'd share that, but we can get back to the video because we're about halfway through.
Wrote this fictional quote to capture the essence of moral envy. Quote, "How dare that person claim to be better than me by acting in a way that I do indeed acknowledge is better than me." And this really is the crux of the issue. Liberals know that land reform is better for working class people than rent control, but will lash out at the left for calling for such a program, as they know themselves that they are too fearful to advocate for such a policy. Liberal politicians are comfortable and depend on the wealthy donors, and they don't want to threaten.
It would
that
help
support
to
by
give some
pushing for
actual
more radical
examples of
policies.
like this happening in a local context, or a senator maybe speak this and C-SPAN, like to actually show like this is what they're saying in public. This is what they mean. So otherwise, it sounds like we're talking out of our ass. Like, what are we talking about?
I hear you.
To a normie, anyway.
Ben does like to keep their videos pretty short, so I can he's they're just doing the surface level stuff
and vague, yeah.
But
that's fine. That's what keeps it. That's
laying the groundwork for future thoughts. So yeah,
right, yeah.
But you're right. Some more examples would be helpful.
Rather than stepping aside for someone more courageous to take the lead, they defend their position and their self-image by lashing out at anyone that highlights the contradiction in their actions.
Yeah.
As people,
we're not qualified. We don't have the money. We don't have the connections. We don't have material basis.
When we make decisions. This is a natural thing that humans do to make a lot of decision-making far easier, as we can lean back on patterns we learned when we were young. To be clear, this isn't a bad thing. In most situations, it's fine to go off instinct. As a brother, you might wish your sibling a happy birthday or help them out in a jam. As a parent, you're bound to be more patient with your child than you are with others. It gets tricky, though, when you go deeper into some core identity beliefs that a lot of people have, and there's one in particular that I want to address. Almost everyone views themselves as a good person, and this underlies a lot of the things they do and is central to the narratives they build about themselves.
You like
and
the triumphal music in the
For
back
the most
there.
part, this belief doesn't affect
Doesn't
people's
seem to
behavior
fit,
all that
but
much,
maybe it
unless
does.
you
Yeah.
ask them frankly if they would call themselves a good person. Doing so as an act of psychological priming can often lead people to engage in small acts of charity or kindness. As with any challenge to one's identity, however, when something calls into question whether or not you are a good person, if you hold a belief that you are, then you're likely to lash out and defend your sense of self.
This is also a
rather than
tactic when
believe-
someone's
At
enraged or
that
like
point, it's
out of it, and you want to kind of bring them back, or you want to like calm someone down. You're just like, look, you're better than this.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
better
yeah.
instead of saying you idiot, you got to calm
Yeah.
down, you fuck off,
Calm
You actually go
down.
like,
Yeah.
hey, man, you're better than this. I know you. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to. You can let it go. You can be better, or you are
Yeah,
better. And that's positivity.
Yeah. Appeal to their better.
It's sort of like that, but it's like, yeah, it's always the pitch with charities and stuff as well. It's like, we
Sure.
know you are a giving person, and thus,
Sure.
But again, it's
Yeah.
like this works on the like those that are easily manipulated, and that's apparently a majority of people.
I mean, I would say that. I mean, there's a multi-billion-dollar advertising industry out there.
Yeah,
and
I don't feel like I've ever had anyone attempt to do this to me.
Yeah.
Because I've either not been in contexts where I'm good at avoiding sales pitches, not just I don't have to resist sales pitches because having the lifestyle I have, I'm just never exposed to them. Like,
I mean, that's the key thing is not being
that's
exposed.
What I feel like anyway.
I think that's absolutely true because I
politics
still
just keeps me away from it. Yeah.
Right. But I still get exposed to advertising. I still feel myself susceptible to it, even if I don't ever go out and buy the car or go to McDonald's or whatever. I still feel the pull,
Yeah.
So
the pull that
on a certain level.
Yeah,
on a certain
we're
level,
missing
it still
out.
does work.
At the very least,
Right.
it's subconscious,
Yeah.
like I'm missing out.
Yeah, the FOMO. Sure.
And I wish I had I was a salaried worker because when I compare like the lifestyle I have or just the amount of, actually, no, it's not really lifestyle. I actually live really well, but my income has, like, when I think about how my personal income has never been above 15 grand and how it's so at least normal amongst the professional civil service types that are my family and community or whatever, that 30 grand is the lowest for a permanent employee. And then it only goes up from there with each grade. And I've never made, like, that's double what I've made in my entire life every year. And how, like, I am under the poverty line, but as soon as I get a temporary OA position, even for some months, I don't qualify for food stamps now. And now I'll be reapplying if I don't get hired by one of these permanent places, but I can't apply until this job ends because I make $400 too much a week. But yeah, it's a weird bind that, like, I feel I'm in because it's like if I make more, I can get on the property ladder. But like, what would I lose along the way? And the fact that, like,
that's always the case,
but that's the thing that scrambles for my mind. What my mom suggests, like, I need stability in my life, more to have a family, partner up, which I never feel comfortable doing because I just, again, I don't feel like I have permanence, but I have lived in the same spot for the last decade, so it's just kind of an odd thing. It's precarious. I'm still precarious income-wise, even I have a
Is it really that much more precarious than the average American?
Yeah.
No, the average American can't afford an $800 unexpected expense.
But I can.
So it sounds like you're even less precarious than a lot of people.
Yeah, I am less, but it doesn't feel like it because I don't.
It's the scale of the life.
I don't have a mortgage. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yeah.
My scale is low. It's low.
Right.
And,
so, like,
so when I feel like I'm missing out, I'm not missing out from driving a car. I'm missing out from being able to invest in a co-housing model or do the things that people who have had a career and can now do whatever they want, and they're choosing to join an intentional community. Like, they have the freedom to do that and be a little more free of capitalism. I don't have that freedom. I can't invest in building post-capitalism.
Yeah.
I have 10 grand I could do that with, but that's not enough. unless I find 100 other people who are willing to give up 10 grand. But a lot of them, even the ones that are salaried employees, don't, because they have taxes, or they got on the property ladder and this, they have a mortgage, or they are paying rent, but it's for an actual 3-bedroom, and it's not like rent controlled like mine is, informally speaking. And they are actually paying, $1,000 in rent while I'm paying 300.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Amazingly low amount.
Yeah.
Like I'd be renting a room in like Appalachia with the rent I pay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, even with my wife and I just having 1 bedroom, my share of the rent is still more than what you're paying. So, and I live in I live in the Midwest. I'm not even in, an eastern state. So that's cool. But yeah, there's definitely always trade-offs. Like, I technically make probably almost 3 times minimum wage, but then I have a car, then I have my rent here, then I have
all
debt
these rents
from college, and
the rents eat it all up.
And it just gets eaten away. So at the end of the day, I'm really probably more precarious than you are.
It's sort of like I have less rents to pay, but I have less rents. I don't know. Half of it's family, and half of it is because of the work-life balance I have. I don't know. I feel like if I had a full-time job, I would have more rents I would have to pay, not just tax-wise, but other types of rents that I know exist, that I'm under the radar of being, a target for. Like I'm poor enough that I'm not a mark for anybody. For any rentier.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
But it means that I can't ever be on the other side of the equation. But it's like
that's that capitalist realism coming into play, that the way that the system is structured, it doesn't respect people that don't have property. If you don't have property,
but you know who's truly free of capitalism? So besides the uber rich, I've interacted with like true vagabond, sort of voluntary nomads, where they travel north. They're like snowbirds in that, like, they go south in the winter, then they go north in the summer, and they're just traveling. And they're like crunchy hippies, the crunchy type.
Sure.
So they are just as annoying as the people we looked at the fish fest and stuff. But but in their ways, they're like totally free from the system. They actually are free, but like they're totally also extremely dependent on the kindness of strangers and whatever they can scrounge. Because God, they were dirty.
A lot of temporary housing and shelter.
And I did let them use my bathtub, and it was something I kind of regret, but not regret how. It was a smell, man. It was a smell, their feet. But I basically offered, like, they just need a place for the night, and they don't need a bed. So whatever. I don't even know if they slept, but whatever. But the point was that, like, they were just in town for the day, or they had their backpacking kit, and they wanted also a place to wash out their stuff. They had stuff to wash out and refill the water. But it was a surreal experience. Like, these people, like, they're totally out of it. They're like not doing anything value for anyone else, but they're also completely free from capitalism. They're as free as anyone could possibly be.
Definitely known people. Sure.
I want to recommend a video. We don't have time to watch it, but it's a Scottish guy who was going over the leftist politics of Chicken Run. So there's a movie to circle back around.
I saw that one come out.
There's a movie. There's a movie to circle back around. So there's Revenge of the Nerds, Chicken Run. Way more revolutionary than they intended to be.
All right. That sounds like a fun movie night.
Because in Chicken Run, the main character, Ginger, could easily escape by herself the prison camp, that is the farm. But she won't escape unless it's with everybody. And that's the difference between a liberal and a revolutionary.
There you go, man. That's a good way to put that. Yeah, I found the video. It's by John the Duncan.
John the Duncan.
The Duncan.
Yeah. McDuff. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of sorry. My friends of the family had 2 dogs. They named them Duncan McDuff. McDuff and Macbeth.
There we go. So there's the link for everybody.
Yeah, he makes a pretty good
one.
case. It's definitely like probably unintended because it's like this is meant to be a pastiche of The Great Escape.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
at the same time, it has the theme, or just in the practice of it, like the ginger encounters everything that a leftist encounters in any workplace. People are like, look, we should just keep our heads down and work, lay eggs. We should just, or they get really apathetic when it's like when they're faced with the reality that they will be ground up by neoliberal capitalism. Because in the movie, like, see, it's that the egg business isn't good enough. They have to automate and cannibalize their workforce for profit. That's the plot. And I didn't miss it because oh, you haven't seen it?
No,
it was on HBO a lot. So as a kid, I watched it several times, I guess. But
cool.
Memorized the movie. But obviously, I didn't catch it when I was 8. But similar. It was a movie where like things only happen as a group, and the ensemble. But it has to be more than an ensemble. It has to be a group larger than like 5, because community is just a study group,
Sure.
But comrades, that's
I hate to rush things, but it's just about 9 o'clock and
it's
I need
late
to get off pretty soon. So let's finish up the last couple of minutes of this video and then we'll get to signing off and whatnot.
Easier to simply call the other person a bad person and leave things at that. This is where the reality of how liberals respond to the left needs to be a teaching lesson for everyone, especially those on the left. Rather than thinking of yourself as a good person or as somebody who is not racist, you should instead think of yourself as someone who tries to do their best to be good and who tries to do their best to oppose racism. With a self-image that's centered around effort rather than being, you can more readily accept criticism and realize that your imperfection is not a threat to your identity, but rather an opportunity to take action based on it. If you try to do your best to oppose racism, and someone points out that something you said or did was racist, then you can take in that criticism and use it to grow as a person and feel more empowered to combat racism now that you're aware of something you weren't before. If you try your best to be a good person, when someone points out that some of your consumption habits support oppressive workplaces, then you can internally assess whether you did your best to avoid supporting exploitation, while also realizing that there's no truly ethical consumption under capitalism. When it comes to being a socialist and someone who seeks to make change in the world, it's important that we craft our identities around our efforts to oppose oppression in all of its forms, while acknowledging that we are not immune from the thoughts and behaviors that are spread
not sure if
by
the stock
system
footage
of
is
oppression.
appropriate.
If you're a centrist liberal and you got this far, then please understand, for the most part, when leftists point out the bad things your favorite
This is
liberal
really
politicians are
generic.
doing, they're not doing it out of
Yeah,
spite,
Google Plus.
but rather as an
Scott,
invitation for you to see how you are
well, I'm just
supporting
saying, like, I know
without
this
realizing it.
stock footage. It's like
Yeah. Oh, he uses it.
but
for
it's
his
fun though
videos.
that I looked into, or I saw an ad for it really.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so I was tempted. It's like make your own videos with this platform that's like the same same it's like a similar platform of using Squarespace for websites, but
Sure.
but for videos.
like
so
drag
it
and
had
drop
all this
video
different
creation.
drag and drop stock footage
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you could line up and then just put your audio under it. And I'm like, I could do that.
Yeah, add some eyewash to what would otherwise just be a podcast, right?
Sort of, but it wouldn't be a podcast. It would be more
I
like
mean,
10-minute things or something. I would write
a
things.
podcast short maybe then.
Yeah, I would write things, or or clip. Yeah, I would take a clip.
Yeah. All right, almost there. Oh, I guess that was it.
No, that was
All
it.
But I
Do
like the
virtue
way-
exit. Do virtue ethics, basically.
Yeah. I think that's a nice way that he framed things at the end there. Don't whenever you believe yourself to be at the finish line of some goal, then that's kind of like the height of hubris, that something's going to come along and prove you wrong. So rather than just pretend you're at the end, say, oh, well, because I can keep going, I can now incorporate this new information into my journey. So if you're always becoming, you're never there.
It's a spiral. A spiral of progress.
Yeah. So that's nice.
Not linear. Non-linear thinking, non-linear morality.
Sure.
When I say that, I actually have like a conceptual back that up. I can tell you about books that further explain these things.
For sure.
About virtue ethics or combining utilitarianism and what was those ethical tribes or the moral tribes is a book that was about like comparing the different moral systems that are kind of in use today. And how they interact and how to kind of find a middle ground or how to have constructive dialogue between them as they are completely not work together. Yeah. Sort of using these things to explain politics but it's just, that's where you get into idealist territory, because then you're ignoring like personal and material interests, like, I'm investing capital for these reasons and not just making it a moral decision, which is something that a lot of activism does. Oh, it's a moral decision to invest in green energy instead of fossil fuels on its face, instead of looking at the results of investing in green energy. How much actual like good does it do? I just watched Planet of the Humans again, and because I was editing my episode about it, where I cover. That's my newest episode, so I am segueing into the finale.
Oh, sure. Let's bring it up.
I reviewed 6. I took a look at 6 different reviews, 2 negative, bad faith reviews of the movie, then 1 good review of the movie, or at least pushback against detractors from a friend of the film, and then 2 more nuanced takes about what the film gets wrong and what it gets right. Sorry. No, I have not posted this episode yet, but it will be the last. It will be the most recent I post in time. Okay. This one is my reaction to my it's funny. It's funny that it lines up this way, but this is an episode from like months ago that I recorded, and where I covered January 6th or reactions to it, and I'm posting it close to the 6th, so we're on it. Yeah. So it total coincidence though. Cool. My conclusion was, I don't really have one conclusion, but I worked my way from January 6th to just talking about how just the big anarchist idea of like all laws are bullshit. The law is no help to our politics. Using laws, or at the very least using law enforcement, and I've covered similar articles where it's just like, look, when it comes to COVID, do what's best. Just don't do anything that helps the police state. So which is a fuzzy line to draw, because depending on what you think helps the police state or not, any vaccine mandate is helping the police state to some. Any kind of track and trace. Hell, it's the same as mass surveillance of journalists or something. It's the same tools, so it must be equally as bad. It's really bad morality. I really don't like the logic at all, because it's just like these two things are similar, and so if one's bad, so the other must be bad too. I really don't like that. That's such a fallacy.
Yeah, I can see that.
It exists in the Green Party. I streamed recently, and it's posted. I got banned from Facebook. Not banned, but I'm on Facebook jail. Yeah. By mistake though, because I forwarded it to to YouTube twice by mistake. If I had done it once, it would have just been 1 week. But because it went over again, and then they basically took that one down, they're like, "Oh, now you have 2 strikes." And I'm like, "Oh well, fuck." All I did was read the statement of the Black Caucus, which had anti-vax rhetoric in it, and I was critiquing it. But I was, and so I appealed to YouTube, and they didn't give a shit. They didn't. They just said no. Still misinformation, counts as misinformation or something. I don't. They didn't give a good. It was just YouTube bullshit. Other people have talked about it at length. So I experienced it myself. Of course, they're not lying.
I didn't think that was a violation of TOS at all. To debunk, to actually have to look at the stuff to be able to debunk it. I thought you were allowed to do that.
All these other channels aren't getting any, so they must be doing something that I didn't do or did do. It's weird because I did preface with like I'm doing this for not satire's sake, but to critique it, or like what I did was first I read the Green Party's steering committee statement, which was among a lot of other things in the statement. In the first paragraph, it says we support vaccine mandates when necessary. And that just a lot of people flew off the handle, outraged about that. Because any vaccine mandate is tyranny and it makes us right wingers. And basically the steering committee are right wingers. Yeah. So anyway, I was really confused about that, and it was kind of a scare. So now I can't and that's why I couldn't link. I don't think I could link my this stream to my YouTube channels, or Twitch because of that. But it is the video I did. The stream is on Twitch, and I did make a highlight of it, so it is there. Okay. It's the same. It's an hour. And so that's something to wet your whistle. And otherwise, I've got 3 episodes coming. They're all various topics. I've got about 3 more that I have planned for this month, I suppose. And they'll be, I hope, the last 3 shows I do that are kind of general leftist politics. Maybe if I don't have like another show to take the second hour of my radio program up, I'll do half local stuff, and then I'll still do other articles and stuff. But I haven't been collecting as many, and because there's just nothing that really interests me now. I've talked everything I've wanted to talk about for the most part. Anything I talk about now, or any new articles I collect, there'll just be similar things that I've done already. So, yeah, that it doesn't scare me or anything, but now it's boring. I have almost 140 episodes. All of them are 2 hours. And basically, if there's any kind of article, any kind of leftist article you can imagine, I've probably read something like it.
Probably covered it at some point, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to plug or talk about before we wrap things up?
Become a participating member of the Green Party, or look into it. We're an eco-socialist party that really needs support, especially due-paying members, so we can afford things like state staff and so on. Because just to do anything, but just to also look into actually how to practice politics in a practical way. These books do not seem to exist, but if you go to antique bookstores, there may be political pamphlets and things that actually do explain how to be like a block captain and actually do politics on a local level. That isn't just issue based, but like you're a block captain, you go around, you meet all your neighbors, you ask them what favors they want done, and before you know it, enough of them like you, and that if you run for office, it doesn't matter what policy, no one gives a shit about policy. If you do a favor, that matters, or something of like that. I mean, it's not the only thing, but I swear, it's like if you get enough blocks to just like you or know your name, and you're in, and you can run for office and whatever. But anyway, that's how you build an organization.
I love that strategy. Absolutely.
But organization is just something that's neglected. So I guess my major call is just to join an organization. not just a movement or a social group, but like organization. It's really needed to learn how to be the government, because otherwise you're left with having to reject the government or to govern. And if you can't govern yourself, then you're basically being left up to be, those fish lot people, just running around consuming things and consuming politics like any other commodity, which is a lot of online stuff.
It's memes and hot takes.
A lot of online leftism.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me again, Dan. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and hope to see you a whole lot more in this new year.
Okay. Not going anywhere. Ciao.
All right. Ciao. All right. So once again, you can go to 3lefts.news. I'll put that link back up in the chat. This is the most recent podcast episode. Sorry, I keep coughing here. I had a tickle in my throat all of a sudden. But yeah, always great time having Dan on. So there you go. There's the most recent podcast episode for Dan's. Really excellent. Like, I can't talk it up enough. I love the Three Left Show. It's always incredibly informative. I always learn about something that I had no previous knowledge about. So, and that's what you get when you get someone who's actually done the on the ground organizing that Dan has. So it's really great to see. It's a fabulous resource out there. All right. So before I go, just wanted to talk about one more thing quickly. I have been toying around with the idea of starting to get into more video game streaming. I did it really early on my channel, which is almost a year old. I think, in fact, I should see when that date was so we can have some sort of a celebration. But anyway, I recently bought the Witcher 3. And I've been really loving playing it. And I thought, because of the decisions that you can go through in the game, it might be kind of fun to see if we can run through The Witcher in as leftist a way as possible. So I think I'm going to call the series the SW Witcher. So it'd be SJW or SJ Social Justice. Boy, I really screwed that one up. The SJ Witcher, the Social Justice Witcher. And I'll just have y'all in chat kind of guide me through, and we'll try to live our values as much as possible under not even capitalism, but under a monarchical system, feudalism, with even less decisions that people are able to make, where life is treated even more cheaply, and just see how things go. So I'll give you a little preview of that right now. See if we can stop sharing that one, and we're gonna go. I think we can do just the window for right now. Window will just be enough. This won't have the audio for The Witcher, but we'll just, I'll kind of. Whoops! Why does it keep bugging out there? Okay. Let's see if I can get that back. See if I can share that window now. Come on, window. Come up here. Here we go. So we'll share that. It is not liking that, is it? I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to... okay. We'll just have to do entire screen then, and we can share the audio. And I'll just go into The Witcher, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. This is gonna look really wonky for a second, but it's a fun game. It's got really good graphics. I mean, at least for what I'm used to. But it's a very involved story, and it's a land of, there's like magic and a bunch of lore weaved into everything, and storylines that come in and out throughout. It's really cool. And you can see the land that you're in. It's pretty huge. Like, this is just one of the many maps that you can go to. This is the world of the land of Velen, which in the lore is kind of the northern reaches. You can kind of see that this is an incredibly expansive area. Like, there's everything from small towns and countryside to like full-blown articulated cities. So it's just a lot of really interesting things a lot of interesting potential, shall we say, that we can get into. But you can do all sorts of stuff. You have your inventory to manage. You have your crafting, and alchemy, and all sorts of stuff you can do. So the possibilities are pretty wild, pretty wide, I should say. But yeah, just one more fun thing to do together. I'll kind of just do it whenever I feel like. Won't even set a specific schedule. That way we can just, kind of drop in as we do. Oh, that's cool that it is showing it as the full screen. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. I can kind of see it, and I can still see the chat, so that's good too. So looking like things are actually coming out pretty well in terms of potential for streaming. But yeah, one more fun thing to do. Maybe do it once or twice a week for an hour or two. So just look forward to that. And that would be The Witcher. So I'll leave it right there. And I'll get back out of that program. 1 second. So it's going to look very Inception-like for just 1 second. So we'll go ahead and hide that. So yeah, that's the idea. So look for the SJ Witcher, and you can help me navigate through this world. Based on some of the principles that we've talked about from the beginning. It looks like I'm out of focus for some reason. I'm just going to try and pull focus back. There we go. That's a little better. All right. I think I'm definitely over time. So we will go raid right now. I don't think I'll even wait to see if anyone has any suggestions, because I'm way over time. So I feel bad. Let us go with Lost Sioux. Let's see what they're up to right now. Oh, I'm going to have to go through an ad first, but they're doing Radical Indigenous Left, Truth and Reconciliation. That sounds really cool. Lost Sioux, a really great Indigenous Left streamer. I'll go ahead and give you the link for their channel in case you're coming at this from a different platform. So now you have one more leftist Twitch streamer that you can follow just by following that link. And we'll get the break going presently. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Fun to have a less structured kind of, rambling conversation as many of the videos we looked at follow. But I like doing this once in a while. You can always leave your suggestions in the Discord. That's how I pick videos from the community. And other than that, yeah, I'll see you Wednesday. We'll be continuing on with the ABC of Anarchism, also known as What is Communist Anarchism by Alexander Berkman. So here we go for the raid with Lost Sioux. See y'all next time. Thank you.